Hello, I'm back. Hello, hello. What is going on? It's Friday Junior. I'm so excited. Hello. Can you guys see me and hear me? Are we good? What's going on? Yo. Welcome back. Hello, everyone. Hi, hi, hi. I saw 818. Hey, Shay. Oh, I hope it gets better, Shay. Thanks for being here. I see number 7. I see Patty. Hi, Patty. And I see Torta Panda. Hi, Torta Panda. This is just us tonight. Hey, number 7. Did I say hey, number 7? Okay, so we're back. We're back to Diddy. We have 3 days to cover, including today, and then we have 1 AI clip. So we're gonna get right through it. What I've been doing is reading from CNN. I like their coverage, and they charge you for it now. As of today, I think they were charging me, so I don't know. I'm sure you can find it free elsewhere, but whatever. So Diddy, I haven't covered him for a few days. I know it's wild, but we're gonna just get through this. So trigger warning, hello to all the new viewers, all the new subscribers. Hello, welcome. We are covering Karen Reed and we are covering Diddy as well, and we deep dive everything else. So let's get started. This is June 3rd, day 15. And I'm shook and horrified with this. How far do we buy into? Yeah, I'm not sure. I know, like, there's a lot going on with him being like pardoned too, or allegedly. That's just wild. So let's see. So this is June 3rd. And these are the witnesses expected to take the stand. Eddie Garcia, who worked at the security at the Intercontinental Hotel, is expected to take the stand this morning as prosecutors' next witness of the Diddy trial. Prosecutors said yesterday that they expect to question Garcia for about 90 minutes. Prosecutor Maureen Comey said forensic expert Frank Piazza, Diddy's employee Derek Ferguson, and Brianna Bongolan, who previously accused Diddy of SEX battery, are likely among the next witnesses to follow Garcia, but the order could change. Comey said, quote unquote, Jane, another one of Combs' accusers, is using a pseudonym during the trial, could take the stand as early as tomorrow. The plan is to get Jane off the stand in plenty of time for an international flight she's scheduled to catch next Thursday, prosecutor said. Lawyers discuss evidentiary issues before today's testimony begins. The judge is on the bench. Okay. Prosecutors said they plan to call Eddie Garcia, the security at the hotel. This is women. Oh, I'm sorry. You guys didn't even tell me I wasn't like sharing the screen. You're like, what are you looking at? I was going to say, here's one of the drawings from the courtroom. Hey, Chief, good to see you. It says, a female removed from the courtroom after yelling disruptly. What? This was on the 3rd. So this is day 15. The judge had court officers remove a woman who had been heard yelling disruptively from the courtroom. The woman said in part, quote unquote, Diddy, these MFers laughing at you. She had been seated but got up to walk to the door when she raised her voice, saying people were lying. Diddy turned around in his seat when the judge directed the officers to remove the woman. It took 3 court security officers to remove her from the courtroom. The woman had been previously seen around the courthouse, but today was her first time in the courtroom. She was known to security. What? It's crazy outside too. I know, I heard there's people with like Diddy shirts, and then I heard all kinds of things. That is wild. I did not know that. This is like my first time catching up on day 15, 16, and then today. Judge bars man from the courtroom after he violated pseudonym order. So this is when Jane, was it Mia? Yeah, she gets doxxed, I heard, in the courtroom by the defense. I'm not sure. Everybody's laughing though. A man who was in the courtroom on Monday violated the pseudonym order by referring to Mia, a former assistant to Diddy, by her real name on his YouTube channel, according to prosecutors. He was also seen recording outside the courthouse on Monday. Judge granted a request from prosecutors to bar the man from the courtroom if he returns. Wait, who was that? By her real name on his YouTube channel. I wonder who that was. Let me know in the chat if you know. And make sure you hit the like button too. Thanks for being here. Many individuals are just looking for a paycheck. They take away from the real victims. They're at like 25 witnesses or something, right? This is crazy. Prosecutors may seek to introduce experts from Diddy's recorded jail calls. Prosecutors say they may seek to introduce experts from the Diddy recorded jail calls when he was planning a social media campaign around his birthday. You guys remember that? Assistant U.S. Attorney Madison Smizer said the calls rebutte the defense's implication that Mia Combs' former employee must be lying about the alleged assaults because of her social media post and support Mia's testimony that she felt compelled to post for his birthday. The defendant views his birthday and social media around his birthday as a marketing opportunity, as an opportunity to change the narrative, she said. Over 3 days of testimony, Mia, who used a pseudonym, described the abuse, verbal, physical, and sexual, she said she experienced while working for him. The jury was shown photos of Mia posted on social media for Diddy's birthday. Defense attorney Brian Steele asked Mia how she could post about the mogul's birthday without recognizing the significance as the time he allegedly assaulted her for the first time. Mia testified she was expected to post for Diddy's birthday while she was working for him. Smizer said the prosecution would submit a letter to the court about the issue. Intercontinental Hotel security employee called to the stand. His name was Eddie Garcia, and he worked at the Intercontinental Hotel, which is where that video of Cassie and Diddy in the hallway. Prosecutor Mitzi Steiner is questioning Garcia for the government. Garcia said he was a security officer at the hotel in March of 2016. Hotel security officer says he worked with the fellow employee who was the first witness. Eddie Garcia said he and Israel Flores, who also worked in security at the Intercontinental Hotel in March of 2016 and who was the first witness to testify in this trial, don't work together anymore, but they're still friends. He said he knew Flores testified because he saw a TikTok video about it, but the two haven't discussed the substance of their testimonies. Garcia said by March of 2016 he had been working at the Intercontinental Hotel for a few months. He was 24 years old at the time. Eddie Garcia, the former security, confirmed he is testifying under an immunity order. Yeah, they're all under immunity, right? Garcia was brought into the courtroom outside the presence of the jury to invoke the Fifth Amendment, prompting the judge to sign an immunity order compelling Garcia to testify. Diddy's former assistant, George Kaplan, similarly testified under an immunity order after invoking his Fifth Amendment right to not self-incriminate. You know, since he has been arrested, he has made $4 million on his project. Yes, I heard that. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, 818. The whole scenario is so sad. Diddy acted like a mob boss. I know through experience, can't say more. I will be speaking with the fishes. Oh, okay. Thanks, Shay, for sharing. It was Mr. Sugar. Eddie Garcia, former security officer at the Intercontinental Hotel, said that by March of 2016, he had been working for the hotel for a few months, and he was 24 years old at the time. Garcia said his shift started at 2 p.m. on March 5th, 2016, and he was informed there had been a domestic dispute. When he watched the surveillance video of the incident, he initially recognized the individuals, but later learned they were Sean Diddy Combs and Cassie Ventura. Garcia testified that his understanding is that law enforcement wasn't called to respond to the incident because Cassie did not request the presence of police or medical attention. She didn't ask for help. Why would she want to go do that? He was already beating her. Did he do it or didn't do it? He should get a lot of time. So Eddie says the security guard's testimony to provide a backstory. So Eddie Garcia is testifying in court today about the video. CNN analyst said Eddie Garcia was important to Diddy's interaction with security guard. The defense will try to question whether the video shows the charges Diddy is facing, including racketeering, enterprise, and sex trafficking, or whether it shows domestic violence, a separate charge that Diddy is not facing. The reality is that everyone knows the video is bad. At the end of the day, what you're doing, if you're the defense, is does it show racketeering, enterprise? Does it show anything relating to sex trafficking or just domestic? And I don't want to say it, it's very significant, but the DV of it. Domestic violence of it. As much as she's been through, she's not innocent in any of this. Okay, says a gas mask. Hey, ATS, good to see you, love. It's hard to ask for help as a victim, especially when you're dependent on your abuser. Right, right. So Eddie Garcia testifies that about 90 minutes into his shift, Christina Corum called the hotel security desk, identifying herself as Diddy's personal assistant. She asked Garcia if he was familiar about an incident that occurred earlier that day. Garcia testified. Corum then asked if there was any possible way to get a copy of the video or see the video. Garcia testified that Corum said she wanted the video because Diddy had been intoxicated and didn't remember. The judge sustained an objection to the testimony before Garcia could elaborate on what Diddy didn't remember. The lawyers were at sidebar with the judge. Diddy's chief of staff pressed for incident video was told, quote unquote, off the record, it's bad. Eddie said he told Christina Corum, Diddy's former chief of staff, KK, on the phone that she couldn't see the video. I told her that she would have to reach out to hotel management or get a subpoena, Garcia said. About an hour later, he received a call from the hotel operator saying there was a woman in the lobby looking for him. Corum introduced herself and again asked to see the video because she wanted to know what they were dealing with. Garcia apologized and again directed her to the hotel management or the subpoena process. Garcia testified he also told her, quote unquote, off the record, it's bad. Nobody who gets used as a for me. I'm not saying she's innocent, but young, scared, and naive, yes. Diddy personally asked him for a video of the 2016 assault. Wow. Said later that night that security desk received another call from a New York area code. Diddy's chief of staff, Christina, was on the line. She told Garcia that somebody wanted to speak with them. She then put Diddy on the phone. Garcia testified. Mr. Combs sounded very nervous, just was talking really fast, was just saying that he had a little too much to drink and that I know how things was, Garcia said. Garcia said Diddy asked him to provide the video and said that, quote unquote, if this got out, it could ruin him. Garcia said he apologized to Diddy and told him to reach out to the hotel management or get a subpoena. Ex-hotel guard testifies Diddy sought meeting with hotel over incident video. Oh, so he was really trying to get that video. Look at him in the hallway, that monster. You see that? That's a really clear picture. I'll never forget that video. So Eddie Garcia sent an email that night to the general manager and head of security notifying them about the calls from Diddy's assistant. He said Diddy requested a meeting with the hotel management to discuss the incident in the video. He said in the email that Diddy was concerned about the video. Well, no shite, right? Wonder why the video wasn't destroyed. Was it maybe because they knew they could get money? I don't know. Allegedly, my opinion. Ex-hotel guard, okay, he testifies that Diddy personally offered to, quote unquote, take care of him. He was being bribed and stuff and paid. He received a call from Christina on his personal cell phone later when he was at home. He said he had not given Corum or Combs his personal number and he felt nervous getting the call. Christina again passed the phone to Diddy. He stated that I sounded like a good guy. I sounded like I wanted help, that something like this could ruin him, Garcia testified. He was concerned that this video would get out and that it would ruin his career. Garcia said that Diddy apologized and told him he didn't have access to obtain the video. He again stated that I sounded like I wanted help and he believed I could make it happen, Garcia testified. Garcia testified that Diddy also told him he would take care of me, which Garcia understood meant financially. Hey, Abuelita's journey. That is just insane. Former hotel guard testifies that his boss agreed to give Diddy the video for $50,000. Eddie testified that he called his boss to tell him Diddy was willing to pay to obtain the hotel security video that showed the rapper assaulting Cassie. After a pause on the phone, Garcia's boss said he would do it for $50,000. Garcia testified. Is that legal? Garcia said Christina Corum, Diddy's chief of staff, called her back. She gave the phone to Diddy, and Garcia testified. When Garcia said he could get him the video for $50,000, Diddy said, Eddie, my angel, I knew you could help. I knew you could do it. The next day, Garcia's boss went to the servers and downloaded the video onto a thumb drive that he gave to Garcia for Diddy. Garcia said he contacted Christina Courtroom and told her he had the USB with the video on it, and then she passed the phone to Diddy. He was happy, sounded excited, and said how fast I could get it to him. He said Diddy gave him an address. It seemed like he wanted to have the video as soon as possible, Garcia said. He said that Diddy again referred to him as Eddie, my angel, on the call. Garcia's boss then told Garcia to go to the address and tell the other officers that he was running an errand for him. Wow. So the hotel boss was like definitely in on this, you know? He was like, give me that $50K. He said he pays way out of everything. I know. Combs tried to put Eddie at ease during private meeting over the incident video. Eddie Garcia testifies that he called Christina Courtroom when he arrived in the lobby of the high-rise building where Diddy had told him to meet. A man who identified himself as Diddy's security guard brought up Eddie to the room on the higher floor. Diddy was happy when he got there, Garcia said. He was smiling, excited, just looked happy. Combs referred to him as Eddie, my angel. Diddy welcomed Garcia and he said, I believe you know he was making me feel comfortable. Garcia testified at the time, I was very nervous and my voice kept cracking. Garcia said Diddy offered him a tea when he said he was coming down with something. He was trying to give him some rugs. Diddy asked him if he liked the tea, and when Garcia said he didn't know, Diddy directed Courtroom to go get him the tea that I like. Just kidding. Guard testifies that Diddy wanted to ensure he possessed the only copy of that video. Eddie Garcia said he handed Diddy Combs a USB after he asked for the hotel security video that showed Diddy assaulting Cassie. Garcia added that Diddy left the room for a few minutes without explaining why. When Diddy returned, he asked if that was the only copy of the video. Garcia said he told Diddy he believed so. He said it had to be the only copy and that he didn't want it getting out, and if it was sure nothing was on the cloud. If he was sure nothing was on the cloud, Garcia said. Garcia said then he contacted his boss who confirmed it was the only copy and he had removed it from the server. Garcia told Diddy and then said he was concerned. Garcia told Diddy that and then said he was concerned that if Cassie filed a police report about the incident later, that it could affect him. He said, I didn't have to worry about that, and she knew about it and she wanted the video gone too, Garcia testified. Interesting. Diddy probably paid $50K, and what a shock to see it on the news. I know. Diddy directed Cassie to say she wanted the video to go away too, former security guard says. Former hotel security guard Eddie Garcia said that after he gave Diddy the USB with the hotel footage on it, Diddy, who he said was got Cassie on the FaceTime call. Garcia said it looked like her, but she was wearing a hoodie and the lighting was bad. As Diddy passed the phone to Garcia, the rapper directed Cassie. Garcia testified. Let him know that you want this to go away too, Diddy told Cassie, according to Garcia. Ventura told Garcia on the video call that she had a movie coming out and it wasn't a good time for this to come out and she wanted this to go away. Her demeanor was normal on the short video call, Garcia recalled. Diddy asked for identification for Garcia's boss, and the security officer who responded to the incident, Israel Flores. Combs said this only works if we're all on the same page. Garcia told Diddy he was nervous about it because he knew Flores and said Flores wouldn't go for it. Knowing Mr. Flores, he's a very by-the-book guy. That's just not something he would do, Garcia testified. Garcia said he then told his boss that Diddy wanted his and Flores' ID and that he didn't think Flores would be on board. His boss said another officer who was on duty that day would do it. Garcia said he texted pictures of the IDs to Diddy. Diddy made him sign an NDA. Oh, wow. Including a declaration that it was the only existing copy of the video in a non-disclosure agreement. The jury viewed photos of the documents, which were signed and dated March 7th. The NDA was printed on Diddy's company's letterhead and referenced the company and its New York office address. Ex-hotel guard says, I signed the DNA without reading. Agreement threatened 1 million penalty for breach. Always read the fine print. Eddie Garcia testified that he did not read the documents carefully before signing and he did not receive any copies. I was nervous. I was in a rush to get out of there, he said. One part of the agreement read aloud in court stated, quote unquote, recipient understands that Diddy is highly prominent recording artist, entertainer, and entrepreneur, and his privacy and the confidentiality of the confidential information is a material of concern. Another line from the agreement said, according, without limitation of companies and or companies' rights as they relate to injunctive relief detailed above, recipient agrees to pay the company the sum of $1 million as liquidated damages in the event of breach of this agreement. Garcia testified he was earning about $10.50 as an hour as a security guard at the time. Diddy counted on $100,000 after NDA signing. I split cash with colleagues. Eddie testified that he signed the paperwork, grabbed the documents, and left the room, returning with a brown bag and a money counter. Diddy put a total of $100,000 to the money counter in stacks of $10,000 at a time. Garcia testified that he had previously told Diddy his boss would do it for $50,000, so Garcia assumed the other $50,000 Combs counted was for Garcia, and who Combs thought was Israel Flores, the responding officer. Garcia testified that the security guard was present while Diddy counted the money and recalled that KK, Sean Diddy Combs' former chief of staff, was in and out of the room, so she probably saw the money being counted. After Diddy finished counting the money, he asked Garcia if he wanted to count it all himself. Garcia declined and told Diddy he trusted the machine. When Garcia stood up to leave, Diddy said he'd walk him out, which Garcia testified made him nervous. Diddy walked down to the lobby with Garcia and requested both of their cars. Combs said that Diddy asked Garcia how he was planning to spend the money and suggested Garcia not make any big purchases. Garcia called Bill Medrano, his boss, from the car while watching to see he wasn't being followed. Garcia split the money with Medrano and the other officer on duty at the time of the incident, Henry Elias, not Flores. Garcia testified that he gave $50,000 to Medrano and $20,000 to Elias. He said he bought a used car in cash with $30,000 he kept for himself. He said he did not deposit any of the money into the bank account or report it on his taxes. Garcia said that about a week later, he noticed the incident report and attached security footage were no longer on the security camera. He said he did not report it to anyone because that would draw more attention to the situation. I can't believe this. Wonder if Diddy can sue them now for the video getting out because he paid, right? Maybe not because it's violence. I don't know, crime. I thought on the first day of this trial, they had a security guard on the stand, showed the video, and it testified he recorded the video. That was, I think, Miss Israel Flores. There was another, I think, security guard who testified. Oh yeah, it says right here. Here's a list of the people that testified. Israel Flores was the first one, and he was also a security officer. So they had a money counter. Dang, that's serious business. I know. So we saw Danielle Phillip, Yazine Binda, Don Richard, Carrie Morgan, David James, Regina Ventura. These are all the people that have already testified. Sheree Hayes, Gerard Cannon, Don Hughes, George Kaplan, Kid Cudi, Mila Morales, Frederick Zamora. Dude, so many people. Joshua Croft, Capricorn Clark, LAPD, Christopher Ignacio, arson investigator Lance Jimenez, Deontay Nash, the Jane Doe Mia, Sylvia Oken, director of Cells, and Eddie Garcia so far. These are pictures of, who's this? Oh, Cassie, Capricorn Clark, Don Richard, Kid Cudi, Lance Jimenez, Christopher Ignacio, Deontay Nash, and Mia. Security guard says he reached out to Diddy about work opportunities but never heard back. Eddie testified that he reached out to Diddy through Instagram around 2017 or 2018, asking Diddy if he had work for him when Diddy was in LA. Combs never responded. Eddie testifies that Diddy asked if anyone asked about the assault video after getting a sole copy. Eddie testifies that Diddy reached out to him a few weeks after he provided Diddy the hotel security video showing the hip-hop mogul physically assaulting Cassie. He said, "Happy Easter, Eddie, my angel. God is good. God put you in my way for a reason," and then proceeded to ask if anyone had asked about the incident or video. Garcia said he told Diddy he hadn't heard anything. He ended the call with just saying, if I ever need anything, to just let him know. After 2024 video resurfaced, I spoke with colleagues and deleted the messages. Eddie Garcia testified that after the video resurfaced in the media in 2024, which is when we all saw it, he spoke to his colleagues Israel and Henry. Garcia was then contacted by law enforcement in June of 2024 about the incident, but Garcia testified he wasn't honest about his own involvement in the situation at the time. Garcia deleted his messages with Flores and Elias about the situation after that meeting with the investigators. Garcia said he was later appointed to his own counsel and met with the government later that year when he disclosed that Diddy had paid him for the video. He said he was truthful in the meeting and all his subsequent meetings with prosecutor. Defense attorney Mitzi Steiner is who cross-examines Eddie on the stand. Thank you, 818. I appreciate you. Yes, please hit that like button. Thank you for the super 818. Garcia confirmed he felt good about Diddy's transaction, even though he checked rearview mirror after a meeting. Defense attorney Brian Steele asked Eddie if he got a good feeling about Diddy, who acted professionally in the transaction, even though Garcia testified that he was looking out his rear view mirror to see if Diddy was following him after the meeting. So he's a little scared. So then Steele reviewed sections of the non-disclosure agreement that Garcia said he didn't read when he signed it. Steele honed in on the section of the non-disclosure agreement that included provisions for when Garcia could discuss the confidential information without breaching the agreement. A provision allowed for Garcia to disclose the information to law enforcement or other government bodies if necessary without breaching the agreement, but required Garcia to notify Diddy's company. The non-disclosure agreement also included a non-disparagement clause. Steele completed the cross-examination, and prosecutor Mitzi Steiner is questioning Garcia on the redirect examination. Former head of finance for Diddy Enterprises will be the next witness, who is Derek Ferguson, after Eddie, the security guard. Ex-finance chief's testimony could be key to proving racketeering conspiracy charge. Diddy faces a racketeering conspiracy charge. Here's what the prosecution has to prove. A criminal enterprise existed. The enterprise affected interstate commerce. The defendant was associated with or employed by the enterprise. The defendant engaged in a pattern of racketeering activity. The defendant participated in at least 2 acts of racketeering activity. Must prove 5 different criteria. The minimum sentence varies. So they must prove 5 different criteria. What do we think? Are the 5 different criteria met? Well, what would the jury think? Diddy's former head of finance says he was testifying in compliance with a subpoena. Prosecutors called Derek Ferguson, the former head of finance department for Diddy's Enterprises, to the stand. Ferguson said he is testifying in compliance with a subpoena. He said he worked for Diddy and his companies from 1998 until 2017. Ferguson added that he was a chief finance officer for Bad Boy Entertainment from 1998 to 2012. He said his responsibilities, including setting budgets, accounting, and record keeping, as well as being involved in some joint ventures and strategic partnerships. Ferguson also said during different periods of time, Diddy's personal finances would be part of his responsibilities. The video again, so brutal. Why the video is being shown in court. After numerous attempts to exclude the footage, the judge in April decided that it could be shown to the jury in the court. Almost 10 years and just turned another cheek. Right, Patty, right. Diddy's finance chief testifies that early on he interacted with Diddy regularly. When Derek Ferguson, former head of the finance department for Diddy Enterprises, first started at the company, he said he interacted with Diddy pretty regularly, a couple times a week. As more professional management was brought in to run the company, Ferguson said his interactions with Diddy became less frequent. Ferguson said that at certain points during his tenure, he reported to the company president. When there was no president, he reported directly to Diddy. The chief testifies he and Diddy were signatories on company bank accounts. Derek says he and Diddy were the signatories on business bank accounts during his tenure with Diddy's companies. Prosecutor Christy Slavic is reviewing bank records for various bank accounts for Diddy's entities. The former head of finance describes Derek how Diddy would use his corporate card. Said that most senior executives at Bad Boy had American Express corporate cards, including Diddy. Ferguson testified that Diddy would charge business and personal expenses on his card from time to time. He said members of his team would determine which business or entity a charge pertained to and then use that business account to pay off that charge. Former CFO says paying performers in cash was common practice during his early years working for Diddy. He testifies that cash payments were an industry norm 20 years ago. He said it was not uncommon, especially during his early years working for Diddy, and that performers would be paid in cash, and a performers manager at times would bring cash to the finance department to be processed. He testifies he wasn't aware Diddy's security carried cash for him. Said he was not aware that Diddy security carried cash for him, saying it was not something I paid attention to. During his tenure, he said there were periods when third parties were engaged to handle Diddy's finances, another time it was internally managed. Ferguson said the finance department managed the finances for Diddy's properties that he owned in Miami, the Hamptons, and New York City. Ferguson also confirmed he knew Diddy would provide financial support to family and friends through his personal salaries and distributions. Ferguson said he sit down with Diddy at least once a year to review his personal finances. So the next witnesses to be called to the stand is Frank Piazza, forensic video expert, and Jane Doe, one of Diddy's accusers, who is there as a pseudonym. So there's Mia and then Jane, we don't know who they are allegedly. Prosecutors continue presenting their case in the trial. Here's how the trial works. Okay, opening statements. Jury deliberation. Yeah, we know. Ferguson is back on the stand. Prosecutors asked judge to ban people they say revealed Mia's identity. The lawyers have identified a media outlet and another person who has been attending the trial that revealed the true identity of Mia in their coverage. Mia is a pseudonym used by one of Sean Diddy Combs' former assistants when she took the stand earlier in the trial and testified about the abuse she endured while working for him. The prosecutor asked the judge to bar these people from the trial and asked the judge to compel the media outlet to remove a social media post discussing Mia's identity. The judge said he'd consider the request if they file it in writing. He also suggested the lawyers propose an instruction regarding Jane, another one of Diddy's accusers, who will be testifying under a pseudonym. We know it was an assistant, but I don't know, and I didn't say her name on any of my lives. So if you guys know in the chat, let me know. Jury sees details from Diddy's bank statements from December 2011. The jury saw December 2011 bank statements for Diddy's bank accounts and for his Alpine, New Jersey home. On December 14, the records show the account transferred $20,000 to Cassie. On December 23rd, the records show an incoming wire transfer from Roderick Ventura, Cassie's father. On December 27th, Diddy accounts returned $20,000 to Cassie's father's account. The finance chief says after leaving Diddy's companies in 2017, contact was rare. He then worked as chief growth officer for a few years, becoming chief operating officer of Revolt Media and TV. He said he didn't speak with Diddy often after leaving his employment in November of 2017, except for some odds and ends related to his departure and occasionally reaching out on holidays. Combs last reached out to Ferguson on September 16th, 2024. Ferguson said Diddy texted him to say hello and asked him to give him a call. He said that Diddy sent another text message shortly after saying he was in New York and wanted to see if Ferguson had time to get together because he wanted to talk and get some advice. Ferguson said he was on a flight to Charlotte when he received the text, so he wasn't able to meet. He said he did not respond to the text message. Christy Slavic is the one who finishes the direct examination of Derek. Security officers' testimony could be a very important element for prosecutors. Here's another art drawing. These are good. Look at how bad Diddy looks there. Prosecutors are trying to prove this is a racketeering conspiracy run by what they call in the indictment the Combs enterprise. So these are little pieces of linkage to the businesses. She went on to note that while Garcia's testimony is not the end-all be-all in terms of proving that Combs committed racketeering, the former security officer's account is still very important because from the prosecution's perspective, it shows what we call indicia of guilt, awareness of guilt. The finance chief thought Diddy's record label could have a lot of impact on communities in the Bronx. Ferguson said he initially was interested in working for Bad Boy Records because he thought the company could have a lot of impact. Coming from the Bronx, I felt we needed more companies that would really hire from the communities I grew up in and would give people opportunities. Defense attorney asked Ferguson about Diddy's relationship with Diageo. Who's that? This is Derek Ferguson in the picture, in the drawing. Mag Agnifilo Schmifilo asked Derek general questions about Diddy's businesses. He asked the former chief finance officer about Diddy's long-term relationship with Diageo, the liquor products. Combs mainly oversaw the creative direction, and Diageo, one of the world's biggest drink masters, provided funding, Ferguson said. When asked, Ferguson said there were ongoing tensions between Diddy and Diageo over the marketing and distribution of the products because they felt the distribution was concentrated in urban areas. The finance chief said assistance and security for Diddy were company paid. Defense attorney Mark Agnifilo asked Derek Ferguson, the former chief finance officer for Diddy's record label, to confirm that personal assistants were common in the industry. Ferguson agreed, saying their titles may have varied, but Diddy and other executives at his company had assistants paid for the company. Ferguson also confirmed that Diddy's security personnel were paid through the company for his personal safety. Former CFO says companies' taxes were always done correctly. Derek Ferguson said that the taxes were always done correctly. You would never let there be financial impropriety on your watch in that company. Am I right? Defense Mark Ignifilos asked. I would do everything I could not to let that happen, Ferguson responded. Transaction from Cassie Ventura's father to Diddy points to possible illegal conduct. Bank statements revealing a $20,000 transaction from Cassie Ventura's father to Diddy shown during Diddy's Enterprises former head of finance Derek testimonies points to illegal conduct. During Ferguson's testimony, the jury saw December 2011 bank statements for Diddy's bank account for his Alpine, New Jersey home. Records show the account transferred $20,000 to Cassandra Ventura on December 14th, and incoming wire transfer from Roderick Ventura for $20,000 on December 23rd. The records also show the same amount was then returned to Ventura's father's account on December 27th. This illegal conduct becomes apparent if you recall previous testimony from Cassie's mother. But the type of link speaks to the prosecution's case where they say Diddy's businesses are really just fronts for his criminal enterprise and racketeering activity combined in furtherance of him and his desires. I'm seeing that link start to come to fruition. That's what one of the legal analysts says. Diddy's former head of finance testifies he never saw anyone help rapper commit crimes. Derek Ferguson testified that he never witnessed anyone help Diddy commit crimes, nor did he witness acts of violence. Did you see anyone help Diddy commit crimes? Defense attorney Mark Agnifilo asked. No, Ferguson responded. Did you see anyone commit acts of violence? Agnifilo asked. No, Ferguson responded. Did you see anyone make the company stronger through threats of violence? Agnifilo asked. No, said Ferguson. The defense attorney asked Ferguson if he saw anyone enhance Diddy's reputation through acts of prostitution. Defense attorney Mark Agnifilo asked Derek Ferguson, did you see anyone enhance Diddy's reputation or the reputation of the business through acts of prostitution? No, Ferguson said. Agnifilo asked, did you see anyone enhance Mr. Combs' reputation or the reputation of the business through sex trafficking or forced labor? The judge sustained an objection from the government to that question. CFO testifies about Diddy's work ethic. Former CFO testifies that working with Diddy was hard work since they were building businesses from scratch. He recalled working long hours with lots of talented people. We all felt that there was a mission to be great, to represent ourselves in a certain way, Ferguson said. He said that Diddy's employees were a very close-knit group, especially in the beginning. Defense attorney Mark Agnifilo asked Ferguson what he learned from Diddy. I did learn a lot from him. He had a great business mind, and I think he puts his mind to something and sets a really high aggressive goal and was not afraid of the goal, and I think that's something you can learn from that. He just constantly worked, Ferguson said. His passion for what he did was really high, so his work ethic and number of hours that he put in was something that really pushed the entire team. Ferguson ended his testimony, and the judge dismisses the jury for the day. Former finance head asked how he feels about Diddy. Here's how he responds. Defense attorney Mark Agnifilo asked Derek Ferguson about how he felt about Diddy today. Ferguson paused for several seconds before shaking his head. I don't know how to respond to that, he eventually said. Agnifilo then asked Ferguson if he has a positive view of Combs based on his own direct interactions with Diddy. Agnifilo withdrew the question and Ferguson hesitated to answer, and prosecutors objected. Prosecutor Christy Slavic is now questioning Ferguson on redirect examination. Exhibits used during Jane's testimony won't be shown on video to help protect her identity. The exhibits admitted into evidence during Jane's testimony will not be shown on video for the feeds for the public. Jane, one of Sean Diddy's accusers who is using a pseudonym during this trial, is expected to take the stand. It would help avoid the risk of Jane's identity being revealed. Comey said there's going to be a significant amount of exhibits, including text message threads, shown to the jury during her testimony. Defense asked to use Courtroom to review text evidence with Diddy after trial days end. They make him look so bad. Mark Agnifilo asked the judge that the defense team can stay with Diddy in the courtroom after trial days to review text messages that will come in evidence during Jane's testimony. He said the time they have with Diddy just isn't enough to prepare like they want to. Prosecutor Maureen Comey said the prosecution doesn't oppose the proposal, but she said the defense team has had the messages for months, and Jane's direct testimony won't end until Monday morning, so the defense has had several days, including the weekend, to prepare. Judge consulted with the Marshal Service and said that Diddy and his defense team can use the courtroom until 6 p.m. today. He said he'd figure out what to do going forward. Agnifilo said the defense will treasure any extra time that they get. So the recap of day 15, the end of Comms, Bad Boy Entertainment. Ferguson testifies that he served as CFO of Bad Boy Entertainment from 1998 to 2012. The executive board testified he was involved with Revolt, Combs Media Company, business expenses, keeping things above board, and that Ferguson constantly worked. Here's another drawing. This is a recap. Oh, yeah. Okay, so that was day 15. Now let's move on to day 16. Kind of sounds like a lot of witnesses may take this type of testimony not really wanting to get involved unless the feds have something in on them. He was paid well. Right. Okay, let me pull up the next day. I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of nervous about what's going to happen in this trial. But I think that the state has proved their case. I think after everything the jury's heard, I think they're just going to find him guilty, maybe? Have I made up did they prove racketeering? What do you think? I asked you guys this every live because we get new information all the time, but I don't know. Did they prove racketeering? Really, any speculation on who Jane is? No, I have no idea. Fear of retaliation. Yeah, a lot of fear. Not Rico. No, they didn't prove Rico. They just proved he's a monster, an abusive monster. I don't know. Isn't Rico don't they usually have a ton of people involved in Rico? Like, wouldn't they have to arrest others too? Because doesn't it need to be more than one person conspiring and committing racketeering crimes? I don't know. Maybe one of the law and crimes video will show us, explain that to us again. The damage to Diddy is done whether he is guilty or not guilty. I'm gonna drink water. I agree with that. Okay, day 16. Steps in Diddy's federal criminal trial. Jury call, voir dire, jury's sworn in, opening statements. We are here. Prosecution's case. We still have left the defendant's case, prosecution's rebuttal case, closing arguments, jury instruction or jury charge, jury deliberation, verdict, and sentencing if guilty verdict. Only one can hope that the jury can see decades of crimes bundled and convict him of RICO. I know. I agree. So we're on step 5 of 12 regarding the Diddy trial. Wow. Key testimony from Diddy's accusers in court so far. Cassie Ventura's testimony, Mia's testimony are the key testimonies. Judge rules that exhibits used during Jane's testimony won't be shown on video to protect her identity. The exhibits admitted into evidence during Jane's testimony will not be shown on video feeds for the public. Jane, one of Diddy's accusers, is using a pseudonym. They granted the request yesterday from prosecutor Maureen Comey to avoid the risk of Jane's identity being revealed. Brianna Bongolan will testify under an immunity order, who's expected to be called to the stand later today. She'll testify under immunity order like George and Eddie. The forensic video expert takes the stand, Frank Piazza. Forensic video expert testifies he reviewed cell phone and surveillance video. Frank Piazza, a forensic audio and video editor, said he's being paid $295 per hour to work on this case. The expert witness said he typically works with defense attorneys, often more than prosecutors. Piazza said he does not have knowledge of the case itself, but reviewed cell phone video and surveillance footage and sex videos. Oh, he's been watching the Freakoffs, not by choice, for his job. Jury sees text messages of Diddy directing his security guard to stay on top of Cassie. Before forensic video expert Frank Piazza took the stand, the jury saw messages between Diddy and one of his security guards, D-Rock, from September of 2015. And those messages, Combs was directing D-Rock to talk to two people, a shorty he referred to as G, and Cassie. Diddy told D-Rock what to say, according to the messages read out loud in court. In one message, Diddy told D-Rock to ask G if they had broken up. Combs told D-Rock to act like Diddy was serious and to inquire about what was happening, the messages showed. D-Rock responded and reported that she said Diddy didn't want to talk to her anymore, but that she still wanted to see him. In other messages, Diddy asked what Ventura was doing and told D-Rock to stay on top of her. I really want D-Rock on the stand. Forensic video expert testifies that the hotel surveillance footage was not manually altered. Frank Piazza testified that the hotel footage of the March 5th, 2016 incident when he was beating Cassie was not manually altered. He said he slowed the footage to real time because of technical file conversion process had inadvertently sped the video up. Piazza testified that the timestamps and the surveillance footage do not always accurately reflect the actual time of day. The jury is viewing the video for at least the 8th time since the trial began. Do they just get like desensitized to that? You know, like is such a good idea for the jury to keep seeing the video? Like, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think it makes them desensitized to it. Wonder what the Freakoff videos have in them was illegal, maybe minors or violence. Probably minors. Let's see. Jury watches a compilation of video clips. At the government's request, forensic video expert Frank Piazza compiled video clips to track the movement of the individuals inside the events. He inserted a black screen between clips to indicate when the camera angle or video clip changes. The jury is watching the compilation. U.S. Attorney Madison Smizer is walking through the video compilation clip by clip, having Piazza describe the actions of Diddy, Cassie Ventura, and eventually security officer Israel Flores, who responded to the scene. Prosecution will need to help guide jury through timeline of events due to the scope of the case. Forensic video expert testifies video compilation reliably depicts hotel surveillance. The video compilation is finished. Forensic video expert Frank Piazza said the compilation used all the available footage he had. He had confirmed that none of the videos showed signs of tampering and they were reliable depictions of what the hotel's surveillance system captured. Forensic video expert testifies that he enhanced sexually explicit videos recovered from laptop. Frank Piazza testified that he enhanced 10 SEX videos that were recovered from a laptop. Prosecutors said that Cassie turned the laptop over to the government. The videos originally recorded in 2012 and 2014 were recovered from the Frank Black user profile on the laptop, prosecutor Madison Smizer said as she entered the videos into evidence under seal. Piazza also enhanced the audio on another sexually explicit video. Smizer's direct examination of Piazza is complete. Defense attorney Tenny Garagos will cross-examine Piazza after a short break. Video expert says he got surveillance video from the prosecutors, but he doesn't know where they got it. Forensic video, Frank Piazza said he received the surveillance footage of 2016 Intercontinental Hotel altercation from prosecutors. When asked, Piazza said he didn't know where prosecutors got the footage. The expert explains motion-activated cameras who only updates timestamps with distinct movement. Defense attorney Tenny Garagos is reviewing the surveillance video clips, focusing on time codes that jump instead of having advanced second by second in real time. She described the time code changes with phrases like jump and missing time, suggesting that it almost appears after the video time was cut. Forensic video, Frank Piazza explained that motion triggers a timestamp change in the camera system. Although a person might be visible in the frame, the motion-activated cameras do not update the timestamp until they detect distinct movement. A video compilation of the 2016 altercation at the Intercontinental Hotel used footage from few surveillance cameras that showed different angles of the incident. Defense attorney Tenny Garagos pointed out that the surveillance cameras don't have the same timestamps. Forensic video expert testified that the cameras were not linked to the same internal clock, but he said he was able to sync the footage based on the overlapping events. So this is Frank Piazza in the courtroom sketch. Surveillance video from 2016 hotel altercation reliably depicted what happened. Forensic video expert again confirms that he believes the security videos that captured the 2016 hotel altercation between Diddy and Cassie reliably depicted on what happened that day. Brianna Bongolan takes a stand. Who's Brianna Bongolan? Let's find out. Bongolan testified Combs held her over a 17-story balcony in 2016. Oh, so that's the one he held over a balcony. I think I've heard this before. Or maybe he did it to two females. Assistant U.S. Attorney Madison Smizer asked Brianna Bongolan about an altercation with Diddy in September of 2016. I was held over a 17-story balcony. Wow. She said that Diddy then threw her over the balcony onto balcony furniture. Bongolan testified she sustained injuries from the altercation. I had a bruise on the back of my leg and back and neck pain. Bongolan also said I have night terrors and paranoia and scream in my sleep at times. She testifies she was hesitant to meet Diddy after seeing Cassie with a black eye. She described seeing Cassie, one of her close friends, and said they are still friends today. She said she and Ventura worked together at a streetwear company called Diamond Supply Company around 2014 and 2015, and that's when they became friends. Bongolan said Ventura was in a relationship with Diddy Combs when she first met her, but didn't meet Combs until about a year later. I wasn't really fond of what I was seeing, so I wasn't really wanting to meet him, Bongolan said. She said she had seen Cassie with a black eye before and had seen her upset while on the phone with Combs. Bongolan said she finally agreed to meet Diddy after Ventura begged her to. Ventura's friend recounts 2016 shopping trip. Brianna Bongolan is testifying about a 2016 shopping trip she went on with Cassie, who was dating Diddy Combs at the time. Bongolan said Combs sent Ventura a list of all the places the two women had been that day, even though neither of them told him where they were. She said they went back to Cassie's apartment shortly after receiving the list. Wow. Ventura's friend recalls seeing her with a black eye before the movie premiere. Brianna Bongolan said that Cassie called her on FaceTime while she was getting ready for the Perfect Match movie premiere. She said Cassie panned the camera across her face, showing a black eye. The movie premiere was just after the 2016 hotel assault, which was captured on video surveillance. During Ventura's testimony earlier in the trial, prosecutors showed the jury a photo of Cassie dressed in a gown and wearing large black sunglasses. Ventura said were to hide her black eye. Bongolan on the stand testified that both she and Cassie were quiet on the FaceTime call. I remember saying, "I'm sorry." Bongolan also said she saw bruises on Cassie at other times. She recounts an argument between Diddy and Cassie at her 29th birthday party. Brianna testifies that she recalls an incident during Cassie's 29th birthday party at the Blind Dragon Club in West Hollywood. She said Diddy and Cassie seemed to be getting along early in the night, but then they started fighting. Bongolan added that Cassie and Diddy and his security guards were off on their own, and Cassie seemed upset. After leaving the Blind Dragon, Bongolan said she went back to Ventura's apartment with her and Deontay Nash, a celebrity stylist, and she said that Cassie packed a bag before she left. Bongolan said she didn't know where Ventura went. Bongolan recalls an incident where Combs threw a knife at Cassie, who threw it back. Brianna testified that she frequently stayed at Cassie's apartment. She said that Diddy would regularly come over in the middle of the night, banging on the door. Dude, he's nuts. Sometimes Cassie seemed surprised by his late night visits, Bongolan said, while other times it seemed like it was just normal. One incident stood out to Bongolan, though she could not recall when it happened. She was asleep at Cassie's apartment when she was awakened by banging on the door. Puff was banging at the door, she said. Cassie, who was in her bedroom, came out in the main room in response. Bongolan recalled that Diddy was then inside the apartment. I just remember seeing a knife get thrown in her direction, she said. Combs was standing by the entry door when he threw the knife at Ventura, who was standing pretty close to him, Bongolan testified. Ventura threw the knife back at him, but it did not hit Diddy. Diddy left after that. Bongolan said she does not remember if she and Cassie used rugs that night. She did not call the police about the incident, saying, "I was just scared of Puff." Ventura's friend describes their use of rugs. Brianna Bongolan said Diddy gave her rugs a few times. She said she had seen Combs use Mary Jane, Special K, and Coca-Cola. Bongolan testified that she and her friend Cassie would do rugs together weekly. She said she and Cassie would at times try to get sober because we wanted to do better. The two friends would try to cook together instead of using rugs, but those periods would never last. And you guys remember from Cassie testifying, she was addicted to them. She got addicted to drugs because of all of this that was happening, and Diddy kept giving them to her. So she ended up going to rehab. I think she said like a total of 4 times or something. It's crazy how all these peeps around him, friends, family, and workers, never say a word. It's unbelievable. I agree, Patty. Bongolan testifies that Diddy threatened her during a 2016 beach photo shoot. Brianna testified that Diddy threatened her while she and Cassie were doing a photo shoot on the beach in early 2016. He came up really close to my face and said something around the lines of, "I'm a devil and I could unalive you." Wow. She didn't know what prompted Diddy to say that to her, and she said that Diddy had never said anything like that to her before. Bongolan said she couldn't tell if Diddy was high. She said that she was probably taking cocaine that day. I was terrified because of the Coca-Cola. I had little confidence and just brushed it off, she said. U.S. Attorney Madison Smizer asked Brianna why Brianna continued to see Diddy after that incident. Honestly, I don't know, she said. Okay, so we already know there's a list of who's testified. We already read through that, so I'm skipping through that. Quote unquote, Jane is unlikely to testify today. Brianna Bongolan resumes her testimony. Brianna offers more details on when she says Diddy held her over a balcony in 2016. I don't see how this qualifies as RICO. This isn't even a civil case to get people paid. This is basically all testimony. Where's the evidence? If the jury understands that the statute of limitations has passed on the smaller charges, therefore RICO is the only solution. Interesting. Hey, Dodge, good to see you. U.S. Attorney Madison Smizer directed Brianna back to the incident on the balcony of Cassie Ventura's LA apartment. Brianna testified she was asleep with her ex-girlfriend on a couch in Ventura's apartment when she heard Diddy banging on the door in September 2016. Cassie was in her bedroom at the time. Bongolan took her ex-girlfriend to hide in the guest bathroom and then went to the balcony herself to appear casual. Bongolan said she hid the other woman at the time, testifying, "I didn't want to expose her to the things that I see." She had Mary Jane's cigarette on the balcony facing away from the door when Diddy came out to the balcony. "I either lit the blunt or I was about to light it," Bongolan said. "He basically came up behind me. He lifted me up and then had me on top of the rail." Bongolan testified Diddy grabbed her chest and then held her by her armpits over the railing. Her feet were dangling above the railing. Bongolan is about 5 feet tall. Combs repeatedly yelled, "Do you know what the F you did?" According to Bongolan. Brianna said she doesn't know. Bongolan is Brianna, by the way. She said she doesn't know what Diddy was talking about at the time. She recalled responding something like, "I don't know what the F I did." After about 15 seconds dangling over the balcony railing, Combs threw her on the balcony furniture. She said she had a lot of adrenaline and she didn't realize she was hurt right away. Bongolan said as she was falling, she heard Cassie's voice. Brianna said Cassie asked something like, "Did you just hang her over the balcony?" And it sounded like she was in disbelief. Ventura and Diddy began talking, and Brianna heard something about her girlfriend being in the house. Diddy left shortly after. After Diddy left, Brianna went back to her apartment. "I was shaking a lot," she said. She said she had a big bruise with a piercing in the middle of it in her leg, and she suffered neck and back pain. The jury saw a picture of her bruise. Patty says, "I looked up RICO. I believe they are proving it slowly but surely." Brianna says Combs or one of his teams FaceTimed her a day or two after the balcony incident. Brianna testifies that someone on Diddy's team FaceTimed her for a day or two after the incident on the balcony. "Quote unquote, I remember saying a couple times, 'I don't want any problems with you,'" she testified. She said Diddy didn't say much, but he kept putting his hands over his head and breathing and alternating, looking away from the camera and then looking back. She said she didn't report the incident on the balcony to police because she was scared. She said that she and Diddy saw each other after the incident and tried to be cool, quote unquote. She says she saw a chiropractor after her injury, told her managers about the incident, and one advised her to at least see a chiropractor if she was too scared to do anything else. Bongolan said she saw a chiropractor that day but did not disclose who caused her injuries. The jury also was shown a photo of Brianna's neck and back that appeared red and covered with bandages. The image shown was actually a photo of an iPhone displaying the original picture. Brianna said her ex-girlfriend took the photo and she couldn't airdrop it. Brianna said she didn't seek further medical treatment at the time because the drugs in her system numbed the pain. She says last time she was with Diddy and Cassie was in New Year's in 2018 in Miami. Bongolan said the last time she hung out with Diddy Combs and Cassie Ventura was around New Year's in 2018. She testified she went to the penthouse suite at one hotel in Miami with Diddy and Cassie for New Year's, where they did Special K for 8 hours. Holy crap. They just did ketamine for like 8 hours straight for their freakoffs. I can't imagine that. Like how degrading and how disgusting and tiring that would feel. After that, she left and decided she could no longer use the rugs. She tattooed the date on her neck as a commitment to get sober and not go back. Brianna said she wasn't able to get sober right away, but she's sober now. After leaving the hotel in Miami that day, Brianna said that her relationship with Cassie became sporadic. Yeah, Cassie lost a lot of good friends throughout this period. She testifies she still has nightmares and paranoia about the balcony incident. She testified she spoke to Cassie after Cassie filed her lawsuit in 2023. She told Cassie that there was a few details wrong about the balcony incident described in Cassie's lawsuit, such as it's not happening in the hotel and Cassie having the date wrong. When asked if she experiences lasting effects from the incident with Diddy, Brianna whispered yes. She testified she experiences nightmares and a lot of paranoia, and I used to scream a lot in my sleep, but it's dissipated a little bit. She said she didn't experience those things before the incident. She hired a lawyer, Tyrone Blackburn, in January of 2024. Blackburn made a monetary demand to Diddy regarding the balcony incident. She testified that she fired Blackburn when she realized he had included incorrect information in the monetary demand paperwork. She says music producer called her in 2024 and said he was authorized by Diddy to talk about a settlement. She testified that music producer Rob Holiday reached out to her in early of 2024. She said Holiday had been one of her best friends for a long time and was also friends with Diddy. She said Holiday called her on a FaceTime and he appeared to be in Diddy's backyard in Beverly Hills. Brianna testified that Holiday had told her he was calling on behalf of Diddy and he was authorized to talk about settling with me. Brianna confirmed that about a month or two after she spoke with Holiday, her current attorney helped her file a lawsuit against Diddy. She said she is no longer friends with Holiday. Hey, CW. Good to see you, love. Bongolan says she's seeking $10 million in her lawsuit against Diddy. Brianna said she's seeking $10 million in her lawsuit against Diddy, but said she's not expecting any money to come from this testimony at trial. Bongolan said she filed the lawsuit against Diddy because I wanted to seek justice for what happened to me. Bongolan's direct testimony is over. Defense Nicole Westmoreland is now cross-examining her. Brianna testifies that most of her time with Cassie was spent getting high. Brianna says she and Cassie partied together and used a lot of rugs together. She recounted the first time she spent the night at Cassie's home, confirming that Cassie asked if she liked to get high. Brianna said she replied yes, and they got high together. She confirmed after that she and Cassie spent most of their time getting high. Quote unquote, yeah, we had a problem, Brianna says, when asked if she and Cassie had a serious rug problem. Again, I mentioned it just a minute ago. We heard that from Cassie, right? Cassie had to go to rehab like 4 times because of Diddy and her being addicted to the rugs. Defense attorney Nicole Westmoreland asked Brianna how she felt when she used rugs like Mary Jane, Coca-Cola, ketamine, and acid. Bongolan said they partied a lot together and she regularly sold rugs to Cassie. You would agree with me that you and Cassie had a serious rug problem? Westmoreland asked. Yeah, we did, she replies. On one occasion, Bongolan said she got Ventura so many pills it scared her. Brianna acknowledged that she and Cassie were doing rugs together before Brianna met Diddy. So Cassie was kind of like already doing them and she was doing them with her. And then she meets this monster right here. She testifies she first met Diddy at dinner in the house around 2016. Yeah, I was never really a fan of him. I know, CW. Hey, Thomas. Brianna confirms that she first met Diddy sometime around 2016 at a dinner at his house. She testified that she went to dinner as Cassie's friend. She confirmed that Diddy was very standoffish with her that day. Brianna testified that she's still friends with Cassie and her celebrity stylist, Deontay Nash, who was one of the people that testified last week. She said she's spoken with both of them since the trial began, but confirmed that they have not discussed their testimony. Brianna also testified she hired a lawyer to sue Combs. She also acknowledged that lawyers she's hired have acted on her behalf. So this is day 16 for those of you just getting here. We went through day 15, 16, and we're going to go through 17, and then we're going to watch an AI clip. You guys know I love those AI clips. So thank you for being here. Brianna testifies Cassie asked her to be named in her lawsuit over the balcony incident, but she refused. Brianna confirmed that she spoke to Cassie before and after Cassie filed her lawsuit in November of 2023. Cassie asked Brianna to meet her in connection with the balcony incident in her lawsuit, but Brianna said she refused. Brianna also testified that she did not tell any of her friends about her own lawsuit. Brianna confirmed that she had conversations with Cassie about the balcony incident, both before and after Cassie filed her lawsuit, including discussions about the location and who was present. She said Cassie described the incident as happening at a hotel with a different person present. Defense attorney questions Brianna's memory after she said earlier that Diddy threw a knife at Ventura. Defense attorney Nicole Westmoreland questioned Brianna's allegation that she saw Diddy throw a knife at Cassie, suggesting she doesn't actually remember the incident. Brianna told prosecutors in an interview that Cassie and Diddy would get in knife fights sometimes. Jeez. Brianna says she doesn't remember saying that and stands by memory she testified today. She says she doesn't know how or where Diddy got a knife to throw at Cassie. Remember, this morning, Brianna said that on one occasion she was staying at Ventura's apartment where they were awoken by Diddy, and once inside, he threw the knife in Cassie's direction. Brianna testified that she didn't call the police following the incident because she was just scared of Puff. Brianna's testimony is shocking and damning and goes directly to RICO charge. Oh, this is the sketch of her. Rugs are a personal choice. Diddy may have facilitated the access to them, but they made the choice to use them. Industry standard, says Dodge. Not when he was dropping them in drinks, respectfully. Right. So this is what she looks like according to the sketch. Brianna's testimony has been shocking and damning and shows that Diddy's alleged abuse also extended to those he was not romantically involved with. Brianna Bongolan was not in a relationship with Diddy. And if you recall, the defense has tried to frame the alternative narrative of what was happening with Cassie, between Cassie and Combs, a domestic toxic violence. Adamson explained, but here we have another witness who was not romantically linked to Diddy being violently abused, referring to Brianna's testimony that Diddy held her over a 17-story balcony. How scary. Defense says Brianna didn't initially tell prosecutors that Diddy had said, "I could unalive you." Defense attorney Nicole Westmoreland suggested that during Brianna's first meeting with prosecutors, she did not mention that Diddy told her, "I could unalive you." Bongolan said she didn't remember when she told the government about that incident. Westmoreland also suggested that Brianna told prosecutors later that the incident happened at a party, not a photo shoot. Brianna said she did not remember if she said that. The defense attorney said the first demand letter from Brianna's attorney alleged that Diddy said he would kill her while he was hanging her over the balcony. Brianna testified that those were not her words and that the two incidents did not happen at the same time. She said that she fired her attorney after that. Westmoreland suggested that Bongolan did not mention certain details about the balcony incident during her first meeting with prosecutors, such as Diddy banging on the door and telling her ex-girlfriend to hide in the bathroom. Brianna said she did not remember. Westmoreland suggested that Brianna told the government Combs groped her on the balcony. Bongolan said she told prosecutors where his hands grabbed her when he picked her up. The defense attorney also suggested that Brianna's second demand letter claimed Combs grabbed her breast so hard she had bruises. Brianna said she did not remember what the letter said. Jury is dismissed for today as defense attorney says Brianna's cross-examination will need up to an hour more. Hey, Witch, Hollywood and high power circles of people always full-time. Yeah. Okay, so it says parties discussed language for the judge's instructions on pseudonym order ahead of Jane's testimony. The judge said he'll have to remind the public of the court's pseudonym order ahead of Jane's testimony. Defense attorney Alexander Shapiro said the defense feels that the instruction already given earlier at trial regarding the pseudonym order has chilled the media's efforts to describe anonymous witnesses' demeanor on the stand. The judge said he feels the media has widely reported observation of witnesses' demeanor. Prosecutors say they're concerned about being behind schedule for Jane. The judge suggests that they could stay late. So it's a little recap of day 16. Brianna testifies about the substance abuse, the photo shoot threat over the balcony, Diddy hanging her over the balcony, the lawsuit that she filed against Diddy, and the sporadic contact that she had with Diddy. Here's another sketch of them. As Combs looks on, they make Diddy look so bad. Okay, so that was day 16. I'm going to pull up day 17 and then we'll get to watching the AI clip. I love those AI clips. So day 17 is today. This is a recap of what happened in today's trial. Okay, so let me pull it up on the screen for y'all to be able to see. Okay, so let's see. Day 17 today, key testimony so far. We know it's Cassie's, Mia's, and Brianna Bongolan's are the key testimony so far. Diddy's lawyers are going to cross-examine and will destroy that young lady's reputation. Okay. So Brianna Bongolan just testified. Can you guys see? Okay. So this is a recap. We already know. Balcony incident testimony shows mob-like behavior. Prosecutors need to prove the case. A woman's testimony that Diddy dangled her over a 17-story balcony demonstrated the mob-like behavior that the prosecutors need to prove the racketeering conspiracy. Combs' accuser expected to read text messages out loud in court during her closely watched testimony. Jane, one of the accusers who is testifying under a pseudonym, will read text messages aloud in the courtroom when she takes the stand. The discussion arose as a group of media outlets argued for access to the exhibits admitted into evidence during Jane's testimony. As of now, the judge said no exhibits will be shown to the public in the courtroom, and the prosecution will eventually release the exhibits to the press. When to expect Jane on the stand? The prosecutor said they'll call Enrique Santos next. His time on the stand is expected to be short. Who's Enrique Santos? Judge questions relevance of Brianna's balcony incident in Diddy's case. This is another sketch where she's demonstrating how Diddy held her over the balcony. Judge asked the prosecution why Brianna's alleged balcony incident is relevant to the charges against Diddy in the indictment. Assistant Attorney Christy Slavic said the incident with Brianna and Cassie in Cassie's apartment shows the jury how Diddy's violence extended beyond Cassie to other people close to her, which helps prove Diddy's coercion of Cassie. Brianna shows text with rug photos she sent Cassie after alleged threat from Diddy. Defense attorney Nicole Westmoreland showed Brianna texts with photos of rugs that Bongolan sent to Cassie in the month before she alleges Diddy threatened her at a photo shoot in April 2016. She testified that the image she sent Cassie appeared to be rugs, but said she wasn't sure what type. Bongolan confirmed that she and Cassie continued their friendship as usual at the time, despite the alleged threats from Diddy. Defense presses Brianna on whether Cassie Ventura saw the balcony incident. Brianna's asked if her longtime friend Cassie was witnessed the moment allegedly over the balcony, which had been central to Brianna's testimony. Bongolan said she heard Ventura's voice during the incident, but said she couldn't speak to her. Westmoreland suggested Bongolan had told prosecutors several times that Cassie saw the incident. I spoke to them, but again, I don't recall. Brianna says she kept her distance from Diddy after the alleged incident. I feel like these sketches are really bright. Brianna testifies that she continued to see Diddy Combs occasionally after the balcony incident in late September of 2016. Defense attorney Nicole Westmoreland asked if she was afraid to be around Diddy. I kept my distance, Brianna said. Brianna confirmed that she went to one of Diddy's concerts on October 4th, 2016. I don't think it was around him most of the time, she said. She also confirmed that she went to a club that Diddy rented out the following day on October 5th. Westmoreland asked if she wore her neck brace to the private party. They're like, if you were that hurt, you would have worn your neck brace. She says, I probably should have, but I didn't. So she sent pictures of rugs to go with, yeah, I know. Persian rugs. Defense attorneys question why Brianna maintained contact with Cassie and Diddy after the attack. The defense is pressing Brianna over her continued friendship with Cassie and proximity to Diddy in time after he allegedly held her over a 17-story balcony in 2016. Defense attorney Nicole Westmoreland pointed out that in the weeks following the attack, Brianna texted Cassie offering to get Combs a hoodie. We were trying to be cool, Brianna said. According to text messages from October 9th, 2016, between Cassie and Brianna, she agreed to sleep over at Cassie's apartment about 2 weeks after the balcony incident took place. Isn't it true that you continue to hang out with Mr. Combs and you continue to spend the night at Miss Ventura's house because Mr. Combs did not cause you those injuries? Westmoreland asked Brianna. Part of the statement is correct and part of the statement I can't agree with, she replied. Diddy messaged Brianna about friends stopping each other from making mistakes while high. Diddy sent Brianna messages saying that friends should try to stop each other from making mistakes when they are high together. If you're going to do okay with her, at least have her back, Diddy wrote, according to the message read out loud in court. Defense attorney Nicole Westmoreland asked Brianna if she believed Diddy wanted her to stop using so many rugs with Cassie. I can't speak for him, Brianna said. Diddy's attorney questions Brianna's timeline of the alleged balcony incident. Defense attorney Nicole Westmoreland suggested that the alleged balcony incident couldn't have happened when Brianna Bongolan says it did because Diddy was traveling on the East Coast to perform in the Bad Boy Family reunion tour, and Cassie was with him. Combs performed in Newark, New Jersey on September 25th, 2016. Westmoreland said Combs and Ventura went to an event in New York City on September 26th. In her testimony, Brianna linked the alleged balcony altercation to a photo of a bruise on her leg that she said was taken hours after the incident. According to metadata from Brianna's phone, the photo was taken on the morning of September 26th. Westmoreland also showed the jury records for Frank Black from the Trump International Hotel in New York City, which included dining receipts for September 25th and 26th, 2016. Records from the Trump Hotel stay showed the check-in date was September 24th, 2016, and the checkout date was September 29th. You agree that one person can't be in two places at the same time? Westmoreland asked. Brianna responded, in theory, yeah, and I can't answer that one. Wait, so she lied? Or what? Defense asked Brianna directly if she's lying to the jury before wrapping up her cross-examination. Defense attorney Nicole Westmoreland asked Brianna to confirm, quote-unquote, Mr. Combs did not cause you the injuries that you showed us when we saw on your phone with the metadata from September 26, 2016. I can't agree with you, Brianna said. In her final question, Westmoreland pressed further, saying, "You came in here and you lied to the ladies and the gentlemen of the jury." "I can't agree with you," Brianna replied once again. The cross-examination is over. Brianna says Ventura asked to name her in lawsuit before filing. U.S. Assistant Attorney Madison Smizer is beginning redirect. Brianna testified that she and Cassie had one conversation about Cassie's lawsuit before it was filed in November of 2023. Cassie asked Brianna if she could name her in the complaint in connection with the balcony incident, according to Brianna. Bongolan said she did not know what information would be included in Ventura's suit. Brianna said that at some point after Ventura's lawsuit was filed, that she told Cassie that some details about the balcony incident were incorrect. Brianna testified that during that conversation, she told Cassie exactly what happened to me. Bongolan testifies she's certain Combs held her on balcony. U.S. Attorney Madison Smizer asked Brianna if she had testified truthfully to the best of her recollection about the alleged incident with Diddy on the balcony. Brianna said yes and acknowledged that she doesn't remember every single detail, but she said she'll never forget some parts of the altercation. Brianna said she was terrified in the moment and said, "I will never forget him holding me on that balcony." Smizer also asked Brianna, "Do you yourself know the exact date of when the balcony incident occurred?" "No," Brianna said. Why do you not know the exact date?" "Because it was a while ago," Brianna responded. In closing the redirect examination, Smizer asked Brianna, "Regardless of the exact date, do you have any doubt that Mr. Combs held you up to that balcony on the 17th floor?" "I have no doubt," Brianna responds. "Hey, S-Dubs, good to see you." "I care about justice," Brianna says when questioned on her motives of accusing Diddy. The defense briefly addressed Brianna one more time before her testimony concluded, with attorney Nicole Westmoreland asking her if the lawsuit against Combs is Brianna's opportunity to become a millionaire. "I can't agree with that," Brianna said. Westmoreland pointed out that Bongolan is seeking $10 million civil lawsuit and asked if Brianna cared about becoming a millionaire. "I care about justice," Bongolan said. She is now off the stand and the court is going to take a break. So the jury is taking a short break. This is what's happened so far. She was keeping her distance. There's been a date discrepancy with the balcony incident. She says it's a moment she'll never forget. I don't know. It's a moment she'll never forget, but she don't remember the date. And then did she lie? Do we think she lied or no? Because they obviously have Diddy on a flight, a separate suit. She hasn't pursued yet, to my knowledge. Millionaire second. Oh well. She cares about justice and the money. This is what it takes to prove racketeering conspiracy. We know, we've already heard of that. Criminal enterprise must prove 5 different criteria. Let's see. Judge warns Diddy could be excluded from the courtroom for reportedly nodding at the jury during Brianna's testimony. I can't believe that. He could be excluded from the courtroom. She's not getting 10 mil out of the case. No, she's not. She's definitely not. Because didn't Capricorn Clark, I think she only got got only $200,000 or something. So let's see, Diddy nodding his head could be excluded from the courtroom if he continues to attempt to interact with the jury. The judge said he saw Diddy on 2 different occasions during Brianna's testimony, looking at the jury and nodding vigorously. Diddy was previously seen nodding during the testimony of George Kaplan, his former assistant. Submarinian said he already warned the defense that Diddy can't be making any facial expressions or attempts to have any interaction with or influence the jury. "I could not have been any clearer in terms of what I said," the judge said. "Well, there was a line of questioning when your client was nodding vigorously and looking at the jury," Sumerian said. During a sidebar, the judge said he saw Combs doing it a second time. I looked and I saw your client looking at the jury and nodding vigorously. It is absolutely unacceptable, the judge said. He asked defense attorney Mark Agnifilo, is it going to happen again? And Mark assured him that it wouldn't. It cannot happen again, the judge said, and if it does, Sumerian said he'll let the government make the application to give the jury an instruction on the issue and will consider more severe measures, such as excluding Diddy from the courtroom. Ooh, I bet Diddy's pissed about that. Prosecution shows 2016 texts from Cassie describing Combs allegedly choking Brianna and dangling her off the balcony. Before calling Enrique Santos to the stand, U.S. Assistant Attorney Christy Slavic reviewed a screenshot of text message thread between Christina Courtroom, Diddy's former chief of staff, and Cassie. According to the metadata, the photo was taken on September 30th, 2016. Ventura texted Courtroom, I just found out some crazy shit. Ventura then said, he came into my house while my friends were here and we were all sleeping and they woke me up because he was ringing the bell crazy at 3 a.m. And when he came in, I went into my room and he went at Bona, choked her, and then dangled her off the balcony. This is crazy. Ventura then said, quote unquote, I have to stay away. The screenshot was recovered from Courtroom's phone, which was seized at a Florida airport on March 25th, 2024. Enrique Santos, the analyst at SDNY who performs forensic examinations of electronics, is now on the stand. Defense cross-examines electronic devices forensic analysis. So Tenny Garagos now begins a cross-examination. Analyst says some contact names were lost or altered when recovering data from Cassie's phones. Hey, big girl for life. Good to see you, love. Digital forensic analyst Enrique Santos testified that he extracted data from 3 iPhones belonging to Cassie. He said investigators recovered several deleted records from the devices. Santos testified that when the deleted records were recovered, certain messages lost contact names or had strange characters inserted into names. Santos confirmed that there were many deleted messages on the 3 devices. When asked, Santos confirmed that if a text message thread is captured in the screenshot, the capture date of the screenshot does not mean that's when the photographed text message conversation occurred. So we're going to hear from Jane, who is a single mother, began dating Diddy in 2020. U.S. Assistant Emily Johnson said in opening statements. So Jane is a single mother who was dating Diddy in 2020. Who was that? Do we know? We can look it up. So many people probably. Jane takes the stand. The judge read the jury an instruction about the witnesses testifying under pseudonyms. The jury was shown Jane's driver's license with her identifying information. The panel will learn Jane's true identity, but it won't be said publicly in court. Jane testifies she was in a relationship with Diddy from 2021 to 2024. So we're covering day 17 of the trial from Diddy trial, which was today, and then we're going to watch an AI clip. Just giving you guys a heads up for the people just getting here. Hey, Triple P. So Assistant Maureen Comey asked Jane, who was in a relationship from 2021 to 2024, who she was in a relationship with, and she responded, Sean Combs. She said she called Diddy Sean, Baby, Ernie, Snookums. She said they called each other Bert and Ernie, like characters from the Sesame Street. Who is this? Witness says she first met Diddy on a girls' trip to Miami and recalls being drawn to him. Jane testified she first met Diddy comes on a girls' trip to Miami, Florida in late 2020. She met Diddy, who was romantically involved with a friend who was also on the trip, at a dinner he hosted at his Miami home. Diddy paid for the trip, Jane testified. So Diddy was dating her friend, and then she went and got at Diddy. She recalled the trip lasting about 5 days and seeing Diddy on about 3 of them. Jane said the first night she met Diddy, he was really hospitable and funny. He was really charming, really nice, and I was already drawn to him pretty instantly, she said. The group started at Diddy's Miami home and then went to party on a yacht. There was a little bit of flirting going on, Jane testified of those early encounters. Jane testifies about exchanging numbers with Diddy and first seeing him get rugs. Diddy asked Jane, one of his accusers, to exchange numbers as they talked at a 2020 yacht party in Miami, she testified. They chose the nicknames Bert and Ernie to put as each other's contact. Later that night, Jane said the group went back to Diddy's home and used the pool. Jane went with Diddy to his studio to get pink powder rug after one of the girls asked for it. She recalled the man in the studio building gave Diddy the pink powder. Jane asked them if the rug was safe, and she recalled they looked at her like, yeah, it's the best. Jane's group left Diddy's house abruptly after that because her friend who was seeing Diddy at the time suspected there was something going on between Jane and Diddy. Jane says Diddy pursued her after the Miami trip. Jane testified the next day Diddy hosted a pool party for them, and on their last day in Miami, they all watched a movie together. She said Diddy was texting her during the movie, asking if he could take her out. She testified that she told him they would be in touch. After Jane left Miami, she said Diddy texted and called her. I remember he was flirtatious. He was inviting me to Miami, she said. She said she was hesitant at first because her friends still had feelings for Diddy, but after her friend got engaged, she felt she could consider the possibility of being with Diddy. Jane describes Diddy as charming on their first date and says their time together was quote unquote amazing. The first Miami trip occurred in November of 2020. Jane saw Diddy Combs again in Miami in January of 2021. She had been planning to be in Miami for an event, and Diddy offered to book her a hotel room. When Diddy walked into her hotel room on the first night of her stay in Miami, he was larger than life with big personality and charming, Jane said. She said her first date with Diddy started with dinner on her hotel balcony that night and lasted 5 days. The date lasted 5 days? That's a long date. Jane fell for what Diddy could provide. During that first dinner, they spoke about the father of her child, a man who Jane said was someone Diddy didn't get along with. They also discussed how Jane dated a close friend of Diddy's around 2015. Diddy said he didn't care about any of that. Jane recalled that the first night was amazing and they made lots of love. They spent the next day, several days, getting to know each other, Jane said. Wow. I want to know who this is. Witness says she was head over heels for Diddy as they spent one-on-one time on vacation. Jane said she was pretty head over heels after spending more time with Diddy. She and Diddy went on another trip in February of that year, she testified. I told him that my birthday was coming up and he was super excited and said we should go on an island getaway. She said she and Diddy went to Turks and Caicos and then the Bahamas. She said his assistant KK was there along with a chef, photographer, butler, and barber, and they spent about 15 days on the trip. Jane said she remembers so many lovely things about the trip, and she said she and Combs spent a lot of one-on-one time together. This isn't Gina, is it? Do we think it's Gina? Jane's name won't stay private for long with that list of ex. So, wait, when was it? November 2020, Turks and Caicos. We're going to have to find out. Was it Gina? I don't really remember Gina, but I know I've heard a lot about her. And wasn't she one of the witnesses that wasn't there? Jane says Diddy gave her a love bracelet and ecstasy during 2021 during Turks and Caicos trip. Jane testified that Diddy gave her a bracelet that said love on it while on the 2021 trip. Jane and Diddy took ecstasy around 10 times over the 9-day trip in Turks and Caicos. Wow. So all of every day except one, they were on E. Jane said she previously used rugs twice in her life. The first time Combs gave her E, they were relaxing in the pool, she recalled. Holding out the rug to her, Diddy said, "Here, take this," and said something like, "It'll be more fun." Shortly after taking the E for the first time, she fell on the sand on the beach and had a reaction. "His butler and KK tried to help me," Jane said. KK is Christina Coram. Combs offered Jane $10,000 at the end of the trip because she'd been away from her work as an influencer for so long. He wired her $10,000, which Jane testified was a lot of money for her at the time. So she went to Tricks and Caicos with him, and she's an influencer, and she dated someone else that was well known that Diddy didn't like. Those are the clues for who Jane Doe is. Jane describes deepening feelings for Diddy and an open relationship that lasted until his arrest. So it was Gina. Or is Gina Love's mom, the little baby that his youngest daughter? Influencer take his nothing. Jane said that ecstasy made her feel relaxed, euphoric, and it just enhanced touch and sense and made me feel even more loving and flirtatious with him. Jane testified that she took E several more times during the trip. Diddy provided the rugs and determined her dosage every time. After returning from the trip, Jane said she was even deeper in my feelings for Sean. "I want to say we even started using the L word," she said. "I was really deep in it." No, it's 50s. It is? No way. Jane said that Diddy made it clear to her that he liked her, but he was seeing multiple females. "I liked him, and so I was okay with it," she said. Jane said that she understood it as an open relationship, and she didn't get the sense that monogamy was an option. "In my heart, I just wanted to see Sean, so I was monogamous," she said. She and her relationship with Diddy lasted until his arrest. So she was with him literally until 2024 when he got arrested. That's insane. Witnesses say Combs flew her out to Miami regularly, but the two kept their relationship private. Jane, one of Diddy's accusers, says the two were private of the relationship. She might have only posted on social media about Diddy one time, she testified. Jane lived on the East Coast when they first met, but relocated to California in June of 2021. Diddy gave her money, including $6,000 for a moving truck, and periodically transferred her money just because through their relationship, she said. From February through May of 2021, she'd see Diddy every other week when he'd fly her to see him in Miami. Jane describes an intense, affectionate relationship with Diddy. Jane said that between February and May of 2021, she did rugs every time she was with Diddy, and he offered them when they had sex. They took ecstasy, Molly, Coca-Cola, and Special K. In that time frame, Jane said she learned a lot about how Diddy preferred to have sex. "I learned how he liked to have corn plain. I learned how he preferred me to dress. And I just learned the things that he liked schmexually." Jane said that he preferred her to wear provocative lingerie with really high stripper shoes and to put baby oil on her body and his. She said they would have sex in the bedroom at home with red lights. They would have sex for 12 to 24 hours. Dang! Jane testified that she loved these sessions. What? During this period. "Oh, I really loved my partner. I was just making love with my partner the whole time, and lots of affection, kissing, and lovemaking," she says. She said her relationship with Diddy was very intense. "It felt like Sean was really passionate, and he brought out a lot of passion out of me. And the way he would compliment me and be so into me and just like really be enjoying one another." 12 to 24 hours, y'all. I'm still stuck on that. Lord, what? La pasión. There was a lot of passion, I guess. 24 hours, please, says number 7. Patty's like, WTF? I'm shook. Jane says things escalated very quickly on the night Diddy proposed bringing in another man. They all lying now. Jane is, okay, let's see. Oh my God. Dropped her head and dabbed her eyes with a tissue when the prosecutor, Maureen Comey, asked about what happened between her and Diddy in 2021. The two had been awake for many hours in his bedroom in Miami, having SCX and taking drugs, Jane testified. Combs was asking Jane to fantasize about being with another man and asked if she wanted to do that. She responded, okay, not thinking what happened that night, just playing into the fantasy, Jane told prosecutors. But Combs was quick on his phone telling her, we can make that happen tonight. Jane said she was taken aback, but again said, okay. Asked by Comey why she responded that way, Jane said, because my partner was excited and it was already happening. Within a few hours, they were in a hotel suite in Miami, Jane testified. Diddy's assistant were bustling around, setting up the room with red lights. After the assistants left, Diddy told her to relax while they wait for a man to come. Diddy told her that he knew the guy and he was really nice. Jane testified she was super nervous and still high from the rugs that they took earlier with Combs. Combs went to greet the man when he arrived and eventually called Jane to join them. Diddy told her the man, Don, was from the service Cowboys for Angels. Jane described in court how she eventually had SEX with Don while Diddy watched. Don left after the two had SEX. After Don left, Jane said she and Diddy had SEX, and she recalled they were really happy. The next day, she went with Diddy and his friends on a yacht. Cowboys and Angels, we heard the dancer. What was his name? Oh my gosh, I feel bad. He was from that company, I believe, right? Jane says first night with Diddy felt exhilarating, but set a tone she couldn't escape for weeks. Jane testified that she initially felt exhilarated by that night. I felt excited. I was happy. It was taboo. It was fun. I had a good time with my partner, she said. She testified she thought it was something they just did one time and might do again on another random occasion. I truly felt that night just opened up like Pandora's box in my relationship, Jane said. It completely set the tone for our relationship moving forward. She said that night opened a door and that she was unable to shut for the remainder of our relationship. Assistant U.S. Attorney Maureen Comey asked her why she wanted to shut that door. There was so much after that was too much. She said throughout her relationship with Diddy, she only wanted to have SEX with him and not other men. Accuser says Diddy dismissed her repeated requests to stop bringing other men into their sex life. Jane says she told Diddy multiple times she didn't want to have sex with other men, but he didn't listen. Jane estimated that about 90% of the times she had SEX with Diddy, it would involve another man. After their first time doing so in May of 2021, she said she went along with it initially because she really loved Diddy and wanted to make him happy. I feared losing him, Jane testified. I just wanted to be everything he wanted. By late 2021, however, Jane said she was telling Diddy she didn't want to have sex with both men in writing and verbally. She told him in writing, Jane testified, because there was tension when she broached the subject in person. Whenever the topic came up, it would start out really uncomfortable, Jane said, and I could feel the tension was building, and I would kind of just push down what I was going to say. Combs was dismissive and even called her crazy at times for discussing it. Jane testified. Other times he said it was fine and they didn't have to do it anymore, but then we would still do it, she said. Jane says Diddy paid for her rent and implied he'd stop if they broke up. Jane testified that Diddy paid for rent for her home. When she tried to tell him she didn't want to have SEX with other men, Diddy would say, if you want to break up, that's fine, and then say he wouldn't pay rent for a woman he wasn't seeing. Jane testified that she wasn't trying to break up in those conversations. She was just trying to stop having SEX with other men. I felt frustrated, Jane said, adding that she felt obligated to perform these nights for him. When asked why she felt obligated to continue these encounters with Diddy and other men. Jane said, my feeling of obligation really started to stem from the fact that my partner was paying my rent, which says financial abuse is a real thing. It really is. It reminds me of Micah Miller, the pastor. It's been a while since we talked about that, but we're going to talk about it. She was religiously and financially abused. Remember? Jane says Combs was unpredictable and often gave little notice before encounters. Jane testified that it was unpredictable when she would see Diddy, and he would sometimes notify her the day or night before. Jane said she made sure she was always available to see Diddy by arranging proper childcare and keeping her hair and nails done for him. She testified that Diddy preferred her to have straight hair and light-colored nails. Jane said Diddy called the sexual encounters with men debauchery or hotel nights. Jane testified that she and Diddy had a hotel night every time she saw him. Between May of 2021 and October of 2023. The two were on a break from October 23 to February 2024. She said they had some time alone after a hotel night with another man, but she felt like it was a hotel night the whole time. Wow. Jane says her relationship with Diddy consumed her and hurt her income. Jane said her relationship with Diddy affected her ability to work and make income. I would say that when I was with Sean, I was really consumed by him. I was really consumed by Sean. Jane testified she made sure she was always ready for Combs at a moment's notice. She made some money through social media, Jane said, but kept my presence on social media really declined after I prioritized this relationship. Diddy would periodically give her money, typically in amounts ranging from $5,000 to $10,000 if it was cash. Combs would wire her money if it was a larger amount, Jane said. The most he ever gave her at one time was $20,000 when she told him she needed furniture for her home, which he also paid for. At one point, Jane proposed the idea of starting an OnlyFans account to make money. She said her friend made $4 million in 1 year and she thought she could be successful posting content. She wasn't planning to post sex activity, Jane said, but Combs was hesitant and told her to wait. Jane says she and Diddy agreed to an allowance for her after a big fight. What? The witness testifying about her past relationship with Diddy says that after the two broke up and got back together, Diddy suggested they make a contract. The witness, who's using the pseudonym, described it as a verbal, flirty contract. Diddy asked Jane how much allowance she would want in a month, and they agreed on $10,000. Jane said she wanted to spend the allowance on a nice home, so Diddy agreed to pay the rent instead of paying her the money directly. I just wanted to experience something that was nice, just so I could feel some sort of balance in our relationship, Jane said. Comey showed the jury an email Combs' accountant sent to Jane and her landlord about payments for Jane's rent. Jane says hotel nights with Diddy took place in multiple cities. Proving RICO. Jane testified between May 2021 and October 2023 that she had hotel nights with Diddy in LA, New York, Miami, and Turks and Caicos. Jane usually discussed her several arrangements with Courtroom and his travel agent, and Diddy paid for the travel. Their times together typically followed a pattern, Jane said. The hotel room would be decorated with red lights, music, bed sheets, and blankets covering everything. Where'd the baby oil? She says the linens covered everything for the obsessive use of baby oil. There we go. They'd go through more than 24 bottles of baby oil in a hotel night. 24 bottles of baby oil. $10K rent is wild, right? Jane describes how a typical night would go, a hotel night. Prosecutor asked Jane about the routine for a typical hotel night that Jane said she would have with Diddy. Jane testified that she and another man would have a period of prolonged foreplay before she would perform oral on the man while Diddy watched. Combs would often direct during these encounters, she said. Eventually, Jane said she would suggest she and the man move to intercourse, and afterward, the man would leave. So she was like really down for it, huh? Thanks, Chief, for being here. I just really wanted to be so done so I could just be with my partner, Jane said. Jane said that in a single hotel night, they would sometimes repeat the pattern more than once with one man, and then sometimes more than once with another person. She said a hotel night could last more than 24 hours. Oh my God. Jury dismissed for the day. Judge warning to Combs for nodding. So he was nodding while this is going on. Defense exploited credibility issues in Brianna's testimony. So Brianna's not Jane Doe, if you don't get confused. So we know that the cross-examination of Brianna really exploited some significant credibility issues for the prosecution's witness. I don't even understand why prosecutors put her on the stand, because her story really relates to what we call the balcony incident, that she dangled off a balcony, while the defense was able to very effectively challenge her timeline. The defense showed the jury records that contradicted the date that Bongolan said on the incident happened. So they really put a whole question mark over her testimony. I do kind of agree with that. Okay, so a little recap of day 17, which was today. Warning issued. Diddy, quit being a jerk. We don't like you in the trial. We don't like you in the courtroom being smug. All the E they took. The 24 hours of lovemaking, hotel nights. She feared losing him. He was paying her rent, and 24 bottles of baby oil. Oh yeah, baby, 24 bottles. You heard that right. Okay, enough of the reading. Now let's watch the clip. We have a 15-minute clip of Law and Crime, and then we're going to watch the AI clip. You know how we've been playing the AI clips? In my previous Diddy lives, if you're new here or are not caught up, I have a playlist, and we've been following along with the AI from the trial because it is federal. We are not able to watch it via streaming. So Law and Crime made like this AI thing. They're making the trial AI. It's an exact transcript, but it's an AI format, and I really like it, and we've been enjoying watching it here on my channel. So make sure you go back and watch that. But let's start with the 15-minute clip from Law and Crime, because I like their information and I like the people that they bring on their case, like the lawyers and stuff, you know. I really enjoy that. So let's get started. Please make sure you hit the like button. We do not use baby oil here. Just kidding. Keeping you awake, keeping you on your toes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So as I promised, we're going to have Elizabeth Milner on now, our in-court reporter for all aspects of the Diddy trial. She's there. She's been there every single day, including the testimony today of Brianna Bongolan, the cross-examination, I should say. Elizabeth, it's good to see you. She was really, really heavily cross-examined today. I mean, they were striking at different aspects of her credibility. And, you know, I asked our viewers if they have any questions for you. So as you talk about the highlights of Brianna Bongolan's cross-examination, we have a question from I Do Voodoo 1. Did Brianna seem frazzled by the defense questioning, or did she keep it together?
Yeah, from my perspective, I felt like she kept it together as best as she could. She didn't seem frazzled. She didn't get combative with Nicole Westmoreland during the cross-examination. She really just, for the most part, if she didn't remember something, she said, I don't remember, even if it was something that happened relatively soon as far as the date goes, or when it had happened back in 2016. And it felt like the focus of the cross-examination, for the most part, I'm sure you've already been discussing it, Jesse, it's just what she recalled and when she recalled it. Specifically, whether or not these injuries occurred, and did they occur because of Sean Combs. And I think some of the big stuff that Nicole Westmoreland was really going over during the cross-exam was, for example, showing her photos about her sending a picture which looked like drugs. It had pills, there was crystallized substance in these exhibit photos, and Nicole Westmoreland was like, oh, so things were just business as usual just after this incident occurred. But I think the big kind of gotcha moment in a way was just that the defense brought up Diddy's hotel receipts, and specifically specifically receipts from when he had checked into the Trump Hotel September 24th through September 29th of 2016, because Brianna, while on the stand, or Bonna, while she was on the stand, was saying that she believed that this date, or the date of the incident, had occurred in late September, specifically September 25th or September 26th. But as the defense pointed out towards the end of their cross-examination, Sean Combs and even Cassie, in some aspects, were over here in New York and even in New Jersey. So they brought up the Trump Hotel, it was like a check-in document or a receipt, but the receipt was for Frank Black, and you saw the arrival date from September 24th of 2016 to November 29th of 2016, and then the various charges to that respective room as far as
intimidating the jury won't work in his favor, right, Dodge? And I'm also like stuck on, do we believe or do we think that Bongolan or whatever her last name, Brianna's testimony about the balcony, since the dates were contradicting, what do we think about that?
Bills, which went from $344 to $1031. $107.84. So it really felt like they were showing just kind of that final receipt of being like, okay, you said that this happened on this date, but it shows that according to this receipt that Frank Black, aka Puffy, aka Diddy, aka Sean Combs, and even Cassandra Ventura, aka Cassie, were here in this area, here in New York, here over in Jersey, doing events. And so they try to kind of bring it back under the redirect, but I kind of feel like, and kind of have a sense that the damage might have already been done.
You know, we have a question here from Danny, and this is one of the reasons I love having you on, Elizabeth, is there's only so much we can get from the transcript and the reporting. Danny asks, is it true that during some of Brianna's testimony, she was laughing on the stand?
No, not at all. Like, not from everything that I've been hearing did I hear any type of laughter. So no, that is not true, unfortunately.
All right,
not unfortunately, but it's not true.
What about this? This is a question from Candela. How are the jurors coming along? Are they as invested as the first testimonies, or does the repetitive nature of hearing these allegations seemingly getting to them? They must be tired, I would assume.
Yeah. Well, you know, from what I could see of them, I did see one juror kind of in the front row, kind of doing that tennis match look where she was looking at Nicole Westmoreland, and just kind of her direct line of questioning, because she is super direct when she asks the question. So did you say that this happened? True, yes or no? So I saw this juror look at Nicole Westmoreland and look at Bonna for a reaction. I saw, from what I could see over in the gallery, some jurors still jotting down notes, but I also, to that point, wondered, are they kind of tired of the repetitiveness? Because it wasn't until the end of her cross-examination that we really kind of got to the point of where they were trying to go with this. So I was wondering, Nicole Westmoreland said it would take maybe 30 to 45 minutes for her to finish her cross-examination, but I was wondering, did we need the first 15 or 20 minutes of that cross-exam today? But we did, and we got through it, and now Bonna is off the witness stand.
I have maybe the most important comment yet. This is from Enlin DK for you, Elizabeth. Elizabeth, what's the skincare? Because damn. The people love you, Elizabeth. Everybody loves you. I know you needed that. There you go. They love you. They love you.
Thank you.
Let me ask you this. So seriously, what is the skincare? No, I will ask at a separate time. All right, I have to ask you an important question here. That's a good question, but more on point. We've been asked a lot whether or not Sean Combs is participating in his defense. If you see him talking to his attorneys, passing notes, telling them what to ask. Are you seeing any of that?
Oh, absolutely. Every single day. And, you know, I have this kind of phrase to myself where it feels like Sean Combs, aka Diddy, is really kind of quarterbacking his own defense team. It seems like, from what I can see of him, he's always jotting down notes. He's always paying close attention to, one, the exhibits, but also what the witnesses are saying. So, for example, when Bonna was on the stand and Bonna was asked under cross-examination whether or not she worked on the Bad Boy reunion tour, I saw Diddy just nodding his head along while Nicole Westmoreland was asking this line of questioning. So I don't know if that was just kind of a candid moment.
What does that remind you guys of? Taking notes and acting really involved. Amber Heard, remember?
That he was having, but there are times where I see him, one, actively participating in his defense, but also kind of answering the questions that the defense attorney is asking, but to the witness and not himself. And so he is an active participant in his defense. There is no passiveness with him being on that defense table, not one bit.
Got another.
Okay. I just wanted to play like a little bit of that one because I have another clip that I wanted to play. Just get like a recap. Yeah, I remember. I know. Yeah, I wasn't impressed with her. I was not. Okay, this is a different clip. Still a law crime.
Used in this case? Why do certain witnesses seemingly need or want it? And does this kind
Talking
of
about
prove
immunity.
the charges in this case, or show these witnesses can't be trusted? Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Hey everybody, this is another Law and Crime who had this collective agreed upon goal of protecting and promoting Combs and his businesses through a pattern of illegal conduct. So Combs couldn't have engaged in racketeering conspiracy alone. Wouldn't others be a part of it? Yeah, she was the only defendant in this case, but
remember I said that earlier? I'm like, can Rico just be one person?
Racketeering conspiracy by its nature means there had to be an agreement with others. So wouldn't others be a part of it? And since he's the only one charged, wouldn't these alleged co-conspirators or collaborators or facilitators need to testify against him with some sort of legal protection? After all, this is what it says in the indictment. The defendant abused, threatened, and coerced women and others around him to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. To do so, Combs relied on the employees, resources, and influence of the multifaceted business empire that he led and controlled, creating a criminal enterprise whose members and associates engaged in and attempted to engage in, among other crimes, sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. By the way, prosecution has to prove at least 2 of these underlying predicate crimes in order to get a racketeering conspiracy conviction. Now, the indictment continues. The defendant used the Combs business, including certain employees, to carry out, facilitate, and cover up his acts of violence, abuse, and commercial sex. Those employees, including security staff, household staff, personal assistants, and high-ranking supervisors and other close associates, acted as Combs' intermediaries, and their conduct was facilitated and assisted by Combs' control of the Combs business. So, let's talk immunity, how it's come up in this trial, what this all means. For that, let me bring in Law and Crime's legal counsel, Elizabeth Vulai, who I always love having here on Sidebar. Elizabeth, so good to see you.
Thank you so much for having me.
This is really good about immunity. So,
Elizabeth, what is immunity in this context?
Yeah, great question. So basically what immunity means is it's an agreement when the prosecution agrees not to pursue prosecution against an individual, in this case witnesses, in the exchange for information that they're giving them. So the idea behind it is that, you know, what prosecutors are after are not necessarily these individuals. The information that they have is much more valuable and important to them in building a case against Sean Combs. You know, obviously we had the testimony of Cassandra Ventura, but to prosecutors that wasn't enough. They have to show witnesses who, you know, saw things happen, who helped facilitate this. So that's more valuable to the prosecutors. So in exchange for that, and also, you know, some of these individuals, it could be argued, partook in criminal activities themselves to help Combs, you know, with what he was doing. So in exchange for that truthful testimony, there's an agreement that they won't be prosecuted for what they testify to that could implicate them in a criminal proceeding.
But they could be prosecuted for something that's maybe separate and apart, but somehow connected to all this, or future crimes, right? It's not just blanket immunity across the board forever, right?
That's right. So usually it's targeted to, you know, the testimony that they're giving, in this case as a witness. And, you know, maybe there might be aspects, we know there's aspects where the witness took part in criminal activity. For what they testify to, they can't be prosecuted for those crimes. But, you know, if there's something that is disclosed that's outside of what they testified to, or, you know, it's revealed later that they participated in some egregious crime even related to this case, but they didn't necessarily testify to it, it doesn't mean that they're totally immune. And also immunity doesn't protect you from perjury either. So it's really important that they testify truthfully, because if it's found out that they perjured themselves, immunity doesn't protect against that.
Yeah, the immunity goes away. By the way, if they weren't granted immunity, and we kind of saw this and we'll talk about it, they would have invoked the Fifth, right? Can you explain what that would mean?
Correct. Yeah. So the Fifth Amendment, we hear about it, you know, when people say, I plead the Fifth. So it basically is a protection against self-incrimination. So what that means is both defendants and witnesses can invoke the Fifth in a criminal case. So for a defendant, they can choose not to testify in a case at all, avoid being cross-examined, and possibly, you know, subjecting themselves to further criminality. For a witness, they can also do the same thing. So if a witness is subpoenaed to come testify in a case, they have to come and show up and testify, but they can plead the Fifth and just choose not to answer questions that might subject them to criminal penalty later on. So they have that right to sort of stay silent to certain questions. The example that I give for witnesses is, for people who followed the OJ trial, Mark Furman, a detective, he had to take the stand because he was a witness in a criminal case. But when it came to certain questions about his possible perjury, he said, I take the fifth. So. Yeah.
And by the way, if you are granted immunity, you have to testify. Otherwise, you're going to be held in contempt of court, right? That it's not
correct.
If you're given that protection, you got to testify.
Correct. Right. So the granting a witness's immunity is sort of a workaround around the Fifth Amendment. So if you're granted this immunity, you can be compelled to testify, which is what's happening here.
So let me read how it actually happened in court. I'll give an example. So, for example, this concerned the testimony of Brianna Bongolan. This is a friend of Cassie Ventura Fine, victim number one in this case. And she testified that Combs threatened her and dangled her off a 17-story balcony. Important testimony if you're talking about a pattern of abuse towards women, right, for the racketeering charge. So before things even got started, the prosecutor said to the court, quote, Ms. Bongolan does intend to invoke her Fifth Amendment right and will ask the court to enter an immunity order. We can either do that now or take a short break before her testimony, whatever the court prefers. And the judge said, let's do it now. So she was sworn in. She was asked preliminary questions. And then the prosecutor said, quote, based on your discussions with your attorney, do you intend to invoke your constitutional right not to testify on the grounds of potential self-incrimination? Yes. And do you understand that if the court enters an order of immunity, that you'll be required to answer all questions truthfully here today? Yes. And do you understand that the order will not protect you from prosecution for perjury if you intentionally make a false statement today? Yes. Your Honor, the government asked, based on the witness's answers, that the court enter the proposed order of immunity.
Yes.
And the judge said, I will enter the order now and will make it a court exhibit. Now, Elizabeth, none of this is really surprising because you expected people to get some sort of protection in a racketeering conspiracy case where Combs is the only defendant. They need them. Their case would have been much weaker if it was the United States versus Sean Combs and 10 other criminal defendants, his bodyguards, his assistants. That would be a more uphill climb for them to try to convict all of them. Whereas if their goal is to get the ringleader, then you get the cooperation of all of them. So I wasn't surprised that immunity was going to come up a lot during the course of this case, because in order to prove racketeering conspiracy, you need the inner circle and they need protection.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So the whole racketeering charge is premised on the idea that Combs had used an enterprise of employees, of staff, of other individuals to help facilitate criminal actions, whether it's drug offenses, bribery, abuse, all those things are in the racketeering charge. So it's an interesting concept, but it makes sense why the prosecutors took this tactic, is that they really need to go after Combs as the sole defendant to show he was, like you said, the ringleader. He was able to tell individuals what to do. He had used them to kind of commit these offenses, all in the purpose of committing these acts that are under the RICO charge. And I think if the prosecution had gone after 10 different individuals, it sort of would have sent a bit of a mixed signal to the jury of, well, who was really in charge here? If you're going after all these 10 people equally, was Combs really, sort of the mastermind of this enterprise or not? So yeah, it makes total sense why they took this route.
I'll tell you what, let's actually start with Miss Bongolan, because I was wondering, why would she need protection, right? This alleged victim, why would she need protection? And then I heard the testimony yesterday. She was asked, quote, did you do any design work for Mr. Combs? Yes. On approximately how many occasions? Just a few. So now you see she's part of this inner orbit in a way, right? Friends with Cassie. And then, and what kind of drugs did you and Cassie use together? Marijuana, cocaine, ketamine? Where did those drugs come from? I would have them. She would have them. How often did you get drugs for Cassie? Often. What kind of drugs did you get for her? Those oxy pills and cocaine and sometimes ketamine. Did Cassie pay you for these drugs? Yes. Did you ever get drugs for Mr. Combs? Yes. How many times? Just a few. What did you get? Ecstasy and ketamine and G. Was there ever a time where you got drugs for Mr. Combs? Just one time. What did you get him on that occasion? Cocaine. So a little bit back and forth there about what kind of drugs she got Mr. Combs. But Elizabeth, is that why she needed protection? Or, just, oh my gosh, you were possessing drugs and distributing them? Or is it because one of the underlying predicate crimes for racketeering conspiracy that the prosecution is hoping to prove is possession and distribution of narcotics and controlled substances? Is she a co-conspirator?
Yeah, so I think that's exactly right. And I think that's why she was offered immunity. So she talked about in her testimony, procuring, possessing, selling drugs. She talked about taking drugs with Cassie. One of the things that the racketeering charge is stating is that he used these individuals to commit certain offenses, including drug offenses. So what she's saying she did falls directly in line with that. So in exchange for her not being prosecuted about possessing drugs and even selling drugs, she testified she sold drugs to Cassie. She would get offered this protection. So I think that's the main. She also testified to other things about witnessing, abuse that Diddy inflicted upon Cassie. I think that kind of helps to support the sex trafficking charge and coercion and abuse and all that. But she wouldn't really be subject to criminal liability there. So that's why I think the drug charges the drug aspects of her testimony really led to her needing immunity.
Elizabeth, this was interesting. This happened on cross-examination when she was questioned by Sean Combs' defense counsel. So the defense questioned Bongolan's version of events. They highlighted inconsistencies in her stories about the alleged attack and Combs' alleged threats and violence on other occasions, saying she failed to initially tell prosecutors what she testified to in front of the jury. And then she was asked this. She was asked this by defense attorney Nicole Westmoreland. Okay, and you testified that it's your understanding that you have immunity right now for your testimony, true? Yes, ma'am. Okay, and you testified that from your understanding, what that means is that you can't be prosecuted for anything that you testify to today as long as it's the truth. Is that correct? Could you rephrase that, please? Sure. You testified that you understand that what immunity means is that you cannot be prosecuted for any crimes that you discuss or testify to today. Yes. And that the only way you lose that protection is if you lie? Yes. Tell me your understanding who gets to decide if you're lying. The prosecutor. The prosecutors. All right. Now, Elizabeth, a few things here. What do you think she was going at there? Because I guess the question is, does the granting of immunity, does it make a witness less credible in the minds of the jury?
Yeah, good question. So I think what she was trying to go at is trying to hint whether she was being truthful or not in her testimony, whether she understood the ramifications if you're not truthful, even if you have immunity. I know a lot of people say, they think witnesses are less credible if they get immunity because, they're getting this protection from the prosecution. They're more likely to give testimony that skews in favor of the prosecution. I actually don't think so. Again, like I said, immunity doesn't protect you from perjury. So they have the understanding that if they don't tell the truth and they don't testify truthfully, they could be still subject to some kind of liability or penalty, if you will. And I also just think being summoned as a witness in a criminal case where you have allegedly committed some criminal actions, that's nerve-wracking for people. So I think already that amount of pressure, I think, would help compel people to testify truthfully. So I don't think it makes them less credible. And I think having that sort of protection makes them more willing to say, okay, I know I'm not going to be prosecuted for what I'm saying here if it's the truth. Let me just tell the full story.
You think
she's so resourceful? All of this information is great.
Prosecution would drop immunity for someone if they lied? I mean, it would have to be a really clear-cut case of deliberately lying, maybe not misremembering something, but you'd have to, I think it would also have to be like a really hostile or antagonistic witness to the prosecution, right? I think they're almost reluctant to drop immunity and prosecute somebody, right?
Yeah, that's right. So prosecutors don't want that scenario to happen. One, obviously, this being such a highly followed case. So if it comes out that one witness was untruthful on the stand, they had to drop their immunity, that kind of helps to hurt the credibility of their witnesses and their overall case. So that's not something that they want to happen. I think if they are ever going to drop immunity, it's going to be one, obviously, for an untruthful statement. And if proof comes out that they were being untruthful, right? So on cross-examination, maybe defense attorneys hit the witness with hard evidence of a video that directly negates what they're saying. So I think prosecutors would have to do that because that's obviously concrete evidence of them not telling the truth, or they say something that is really, really devastating to their case. Those are the two scenarios that I could possibly see it.
You know where immunity really became clear? Eddie Garcia, this former security officer from the Intercontinental Hotel. Remember the scene where Sean Combs is appearing on tape to beat Cassandra Ventura? So he takes the stand, and by the way, he wanted to invoke his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. He was granted immunity to testify. Why? Well, what does he say? He claims he saw the surveillance footage of Combs and Cassie, that he receives a call from Combs' chief of staff, Christina Courtroom, who asks for the video, okay? Tells her off the record, it's bad. She calls back at one point, this time with Combs on the line, who also asks for the video. Garcia even emails management about this. Apparently, a copy was shown to the jury. Combs allegedly says that he would take care of him in exchange for the video. Garcia reaches out to his supervisor, who agreed to hand over the video for $50,000. Combs calls Garcia Eddie my angel, and in the end he testified that Combs gave him $100,000. He signed an NDA. He testified he split the money with his supervisor and another officer on duty. He kept $30,000 for himself. Apparently told by Combs not to make big purchases. Apparently didn't deposit any of the money into a bank account and reported on his taxes. And then he claims that Combs reached back out to him a short time after, said, "Happy Easter, Eddie, my angel. God is good. God put you in my life for a reason." He also testified that when authorities contacted him in June of 2024, so this is after CNN published a copy of the Intercontinental video for the whole world to see, he claims he wasn't truthful with authorities about his role in all of this, that he deleted messages with other security officers, and then only allegedly came clean about the payout with the government when he got an attorney. So, Elizabeth, he needed immunity, right?
He absolutely did. And I know several folks were given immunity here. When I saw the details of his testimony, I thought this is someone who really needed it. So this goes straight to some of the charges under the RICO racketeering charge. Obviously, you said bribery. I think even possibly obstruction of justice. You know, he's saying he took this large sum of money to sign this NDA, basically not discuss this this incident, giving over the files to Combs, you know, what he maybe thought was the last copy of it. So you could argue that might be obstruction of possible justice. Those two things go directly to the racketeering charge. And also even the details that you just mentioned, him being told, don't make large purchases, don't attract attention with this. He didn't deposit the money in the bank. So he seemed like he had some knowledge that this wasn't entirely legal. You could also argue, are there potential tax implications? Right. You know, didn't really declare this money, a large sum of money over the sum of $10,000, not being truthful to officers. So at the very least, I think there definitely goes to the bribery and the obstruction of justice.
Now, the defense, when they cross-examined them, they tried to water this down a little bit. You know, there's a provision in the NDA you could cooperate with police. This was never meant to try to obstruct justice. You know, this is a way to protect the privacy of Combs and Ventura. NDAs are common, but obviously he wanted some protection. So to me, by the way, it always made sense that the assistants would be the ones who need protection, right? Racketeering, criminal enterprise, inner circle, the alleged co-conspirators, the facilitators. And when you hear the testimony of certain individuals, I guess I'm not surprised that they were granted protection. For example, David James. By the way, he testified, this is Mr. Combs' kingdom, and we're all here to serve it. That's what he was told when he started the work. Very important for, you know, a racketeering, criminal enterprise, common purpose. But David James testified that he set up the hotel rooms with thousands of dollars in cash, that he got drugs for Combs, including Percocet, that he got filed under his own name. He testified there were probably 25 or 30 different pill bottles. Testified that Combs once instructed him to make a false report to police, saying that after Combs apparently got into some sort of fight with his chef, that James was to tell authorities the chef was the one who was the aggressor and struck first. By the way, James says he never really filed that false report. He also testified that he drove Combs to confront his rival Suge Knight at a place called Mel's Diner while Combs was apparently armed with guns. Elizabeth, why did he need protection?
Yeah, so I think, again, he's sort of implicated in a lot of the other charges as well. So coercion, you know, not necessarily kidnapping or forced labor or things like that, but possible coercion, abuse. Remember, also these assistants were the ones that were helping to set up hotel rooms for freakoffs, having to clean things afterwards, placing potential drugs there. So obviously you have the drug aspect, but then you also have the possible facilitating of these freakoffs, which Cassie testified to were not consensual, which kind of helps support the sex trafficking, the prostitution charges, especially if it took place in New York, obviously prostitution being illegal. So I think their whole involvement in all of that. And then a lot of what he testified to as well, helping facilitate Combs to a violent confrontation with Suge Knight, with possibly falsifying reports, things like that. So things that go straight to the RICO charge and then other potential criminal acts as well. And the big thing that stuck out to me with all the assistants is the job that they had essentially in preparing, sort of maybe sort of hiding or sweeping under the rug and then cleaning up after these freakoffs.
Yeah, because if the jury accepts that freakoffs are crime scenes, right, these hotel rooms are crime scenes, think about it like that. That's what I'm sure the prosecution will say. And, you know, I think for me, the big thing was that protecting Combs, breaking the law to do so, or allegedly, this all goes to the racketeering, all of the racketeering descriptions, you know, the violence, the guns, the pattern of criminal conduct for racketeering, the environment, by the way, that Cassie was around for force, fraud, coercion, sex trafficking, you hit it all. There was something interesting that happened too when James was asked about his immunity or protection. And this happened when he was questioned by Combs' defense counsel. He was asked, And so you're driving this car, that what you're saying is you're driving this car with D-Rock and Sean Combs in it, looking for Suge Knight, and you go down, you're driving to the diner, right? That's correct. You don't need directions on how to get to the diner. You know how to get there, right? I frequent Mel's all the time. And you're going there, you said nothing was said in the car, right? I don't remember anything. It was complete silence. And so what you told the jury you were doing is you were executing the mission, right? I was doing what I was told. I think what you said was something about executing a plan or a mission. Do you remember that? I think those are the same things. But yes, I was executing my command I was given. You were executing your command? That's right, that Mr. Combs commanded me to do. I understand. And so what Mr. Combs commanded you to do was to get into this car with D-Rock with 3 guns. You've never seen guns before, right? Not with Mr. Combs. This isn't the kind of thing where you see guns from time to time, right? That's correct. And this is fair to say a radical departure in your job responsibilities. Is that an understatement? That is the understatement of the day so far. It goes on to say, and I want to get back to the first time you spoke to the government. Okay, you didn't tell them any of this other part, right? That's correct. And you told them this other part only the second time that you spoke to them, right? After I had legal counsel. Yes, sir. Have they given you some type of immunity? I'd have to ask my lawyer that question. There was like a pre-offer agreement or something like that, a proffer agreement. Thank you. Did they ever say you're not going to get in trouble for this? There's an objection. The court overrules it. My lawyer said I have no legal visibility. An objection, Your Honor. And then it says, let me specify one thing. I don't want to know anything about what you and your lawyer talked about. Elizabeth, what's going on here? What's the proffer agreement? And what were they trying to get here on cross?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So I think what they were trying to get at, one of the things that they were trying to say is, you knew the route to this place. The car was silent. You didn't technically hear any commands. So I think they were trying to get at is that this was a voluntary trip he took. He didn't really know what was happening. This wasn't something where he was being directed by Combs to go and help him basically commit a violent act or do something illegal. So I think that's one thing. It might also be the defense trying to chip away again at his credibility, saying, he's been given immunity. He might be compelled to say things that are maybe exaggerated or things like that. But the question about the proffer agreement, so it's interesting because it's typically seen as sort of like a preliminary immunity agreement. A lot of times what you'll have is it's usually in the context actually of a defendant or person who's facing charges. So it's an agreement where the prosecution will say, in exchange for this limited information that we're going to get, we might give you a lighter sentence or we might not subject you to this sort of criminal liability. I think it's used a lot in sort of the preliminary stages when prosecutors are trying to talk to witnesses or people who might help their case. And then it sort of evolves later on. And then we see an immunity agreement usually.
By the way, George Kaplan was another former assistant who got immunity.
Yeah, I was wondering about that NDA thing. Like they basically, if there's a crime, right, they're no longer like active.
Testified that his job was, again, clean up the hotel rooms in Miami, New York, LA. He testified lots of empty bottles, empty Gatorade bottles, empty liquor bottles, often baby oil, making it look essentially like nothing happened. He was also tasked with delivering a medicine kit. So this was a bag apparently filled with prescription pills and pain meds. He had to get Combs drugs like MDMA. Kaplan testified that he heard Cassie screaming in a bedroom of Combs' private jet, with her saying at the time, "Isn't anybody seeing this?" There was crashing glass, saw Combs standing over Cassie, who was cowering. Testified his job for Combs was, quote, protecting him and protecting his public image were important to him. That's what I was keen on doing. Testified after an alleged episode where he saw Cassie crying on the bed with her head in her hands, noticed clear bruising on her face. Combs reportedly told him to go to the pharmacy to buy lotion and witch hazel with the understanding that they be mixed to, quote, act as an anti-swelling agent, so seemingly to cover up the bruises. Elizabeth, why did he need protection?
Yeah, so I don't think he needed protection in terms of the abuse that he saw, because again, he's just a witness to this. So I don't think there's any liability there. But again, in sort of setting up the hotel rooms for these potential freak-offs, any sort of placement of drugs or illegal substances that were there, I think he needed it for that. I think it's also in terms of what he purchased, because one of the things that the prosecution is trying to point to is using corporate funds or funneling money through these different corporate entities, Combs Enterprises, all of his Bad Boy Records, all of these businesses. And were assistants instructed to kind of funnel this money to help him essentially cover up these crimes. So, buying concealer, buying witch hazel, or things to kind of cover up these bruises. So I think those are sort of the main reasons why the witnessing the abuse and things like that. I don't think it was really for that.
Yeah, protecting him, though, his brand, his reputation. It reads almost verbatim from the opening paragraphs of the racketeering conspiracy, what the common purpose was. And yeah, I'm not surprised. And look, we're in the middle of this case. I wonder who else may get protected.
So that's basically the end of that episode. Yeah, this is wild. This is a wild, wild, wild case. And hello, welcome to all the new subbies, all the new viewers, all the new subscribers, chatters, all of the above. Please make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe and stay. I cover true crime all the time. And then we just have a lot of fun here. So don't say I didn't warn you. Okay, so now we're going to get started on the AI. So this is the third clip I think I have played of the AI, Cassie's testimony. So we're going to continue that and finish that. Let's get started.
Ms. Ventura, before the break, we were talking
love
about
this AI
Craigslist.
stuff.
Do you remember that testimony?
Yes.
In what cities did you respond to ads on Craigslist?
In New York, I think was the main.
At whose direction
So
did
this
you
is exactly the transcript from court, just AI.
respond to ads on Craigslist?
At Sean's direction.
When you responded to ads on Craigslist, whose contact information did you use?
I used my own.
Did you use your own name?
No.
What name would you use?
Jackie Starr.
Would you use your own phone number?
I would have to use my own phone number. Yep.
You also mentioned Backpage. What
Thank
is
you,
Backpage?
Albert. Welcome.
Backpage is a similar thing to Craigslist.
Appreciate
Ads.
you.
Did you respond to ads on Backpage as well?
I did.
At whose direction?
Sean's.
Also, before we broke, you testified about a company called
Thank you, Albert, for the super chat. I really appreciate that. He says great content always. Thank you, thank you. And welcome if you're new. Welcome to Mellyverse.
Cowboys for Angels. Do you remember that testimony?
Yeah,
Who typically communicated with Cowboys for Angels?
I did. I communicated with a gentleman named Garen.
Who, if anyone, directed you to communicate with Garen?
Yes, this
Sean.
is AI
And how
from
did
the
you typically
exact
communicate with
trial testimony transcript. Just obviously AI.
Garen?
Usually through texts, occasionally a call.
When you would reach out to Garen, how much notice would you give him that you needed an escort?
It usually wasn't that much notice. It would be like somebody today.
What else, if anything, would you tell Garen during those communications?
I tell him what city we're in because we would basically send escorts based off the city we were in. Time, location, all of that.
Who were some of the most frequent escorts?
Most frequently used would be Jules, Dave, Johnny. I think those were the main ones.
And we just looked at 6 photos of escorts. Are those all the escorts hired for Freakoffs or just some of them?
Just some of them.
And we talked about travel a little bit with Dave. How, if you know, would travel be arranged for other escorts?
For other escorts, I mean, we didn't have a whole lot of them travel, but there was one particular trip that we took to Ibiza, and one of Garen's guys flew out there. So I think the travel was probably arranged by them.
When, if ever, did you book escort travel?
Occasionally, like if we absolutely needed to. It wasn't all the time.
Before booking any escort travel, what, if any, conversation would you have with Sean about booking travel?
I
I
love
mean,
this
he would
AI.
ask me like what we were doing, if we were flying somebody in, who's available, and from there talk about how to get them there if they weren't in the town or they weren't in the city.
What would he say about when you say he talked about how to get them there? What would he say?
Do they need to fly in? Do they need to travel or are they here? Just basic questions.
You also mentioned with respect to Dave that Sean's travel agent was sometimes involved. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
What, if any, role did you have in communicating with Sean's travel agent?
I definitely reached out to his travel agent. I believe we just acted as if it was a new employee or somebody that was being interviewed or something.
When you say we acted, who are you referring to?
Sean and I.
And when you say acted as a new employee, who would you say was the new employee?
Dave, for instance. If we were going to have the travel agent book his travel, or, oh, I have a new staff member, we have somebody new coming to visit for a meeting, so that wouldn't be speculated.
Why was it necessary to tell the travel agent that Dave, for example, was a new employee?
It was important to Sean not to have his identity known.
Speculation.
That's sustained.
What, if any, discussions did you have with Sean about communicating with the travel agent?
Can you repeat that? Sorry.
It's okay. You were talking about reaching out to the travel agent. Did you discuss the reach out with Sean?
Yes.
What did you talk about?
I mean, it was by his direction, so we would discuss when they would arrive and when we would start.
You testified earlier about using
This AI clip makes her look ditzy or sound ditzy, but I mean, I'm totally off
some
with
drugs
Cassie.
at Freakoffs. Do you remember that
I like
testimony?
Cassie a lot.
Yep.
And specifically, we talked about using ecstasy at the first Freakoff. Is that right?
Yes.
Did you use drugs at other Freakoffs?
Yes.
How many?
All kinds.
Let me rephrase that question, Ms. Ventura. How many Freakoffs did you use drugs at?
Oh, all of them.
Why did you use drugs at every Freakoff?
For me, it was dissociative and numbing. I couldn't imagine myself doing any of that without having some sort of buffer or just way to not feel it for what it really was, which was emotionless and sex with a stranger that I didn't want to be having sex with.
Who else besides you used drugs during Freakoffs?
Sean did, and occasionally the escort, but I wasn't always clear on that.
Were there any Freakoffs where you did not use drugs?
No, not that I remember, no.
You talked
Wow.
earlier about using ecstasy at the first Freakoff. What other drugs,
Yeah,
if any,
Patty.
did you use at Freakoffs?
At Freakoffs, marijuana, ketamine, GHB, sometimes mushrooms, just whatever the drug of choice was at that point.
Who provided the drugs for Freakoffs?
Sean,
When, in relation to the session starting, would Sean provide you with the drugs?
before, sometimes an hour before, sometimes before we even got there, somebody would drop drugs off to me where I was.
When you say somebody would drop drugs off to you, who dropped drugs off to you?
A staff member, security assistant, whoever was available.
When you say staff, whose staff dropped off drugs to you?
Sean's staff,
And whose security dropped off drugs for you?
Sean's security.
How did you know how far in advance to take the drugs?
I would ask.
Who would you ask?
Sean.
Ms. Gavin, can you please pull up Government Exhibit B244 for identification for the court and the parties only? If you could pull up page 1 and page 2 side by side. Ms. Ventura, do you recognize the document that's marked Government Exhibit B244?
Yes.
What generally is this document?
It's a text message between me and Sean.
Is it a fair and accurate
Hey,
text
Joshua.
message between you and Sean?
Good to see you.
Yes.
The government offers Government Exhibit B244.
May I have one moment?
You may.
This AI
No
is
objection.
so serious.
The exhibit will be admitted.
Literally.
Ms. Gavin, can you please publish
I
the
love it.
exhibit for the jury? Ms. Ventura, focusing first on the left-hand side of the page. Who are the participants in this conversation?
Sean and I.
And focusing on the right-hand side of the screen at the very top, what is the date of the first blue bubble?
April 6th, 2013.
For a few pages, I'm going to read the gray bubbles, and you read the blue bubbles. Can you start with that first blue bubble?
About to touch down. Call me as soon as you hit. I'm happy. Call APT. RM in London, 5301 Sally Richards.
So pausing there before we go on, what is your understanding of what Sean's text, RM in London, Sally 5301 Sally Richards means?
That the room number is 5301 and Sally Richards is the name under the room.
At what hotel is the room at?
It says the London.
So continuing on, if you can, with the blue bottom at the page.
Diddy so nasty.
It says K. Bags came out that quick.
Not in a good way.
Ms. Gavin, can we please turn to page 3 and 4?
All set. What Tim do I tell him?
What do you think Tim is supposed to say?
Time.
3 a.m. Who?
Punisher. His dad dies. Punisher will come at 6. Died.
Pausing you there.
A
Is this the
Punisher.
same Punisher whose photograph we looked at a few moments ago?
Yes.
So continuing down,
Yeah.
we forgot about Daniel.
He's like having a baby or something. He hit me a little while back.
So pausing you there, the reference to the name Daniel, is that the same Daniel we just looked at a photograph of?
Yes.
Continuing on.
What you think Garen just hit me back? We've had him before. White boy named William.
Thank you, Michelle.
So him or Daniel.
You're
I'm
so
good with
sweet.
whatever.
Thank you
Checking on Daniel's
for
availability.
being here.
Ms. Gavin, can you turn to the next 2 pages, please?
Can't buy Astro. It's too much. I'm buying crazy stuff. Okay, LOL. I got it. LOL. LOL cool. When should I take the thing? Daniel isn't hitting back.
Just
Hello,
pausing you there
Pablo.
to talk about 2 text messages.
Thank
When
you,
you say
Michelle.
you can't buy Astro, what does Astro refer to?
The lubricant,
Astroglide.
Astroglide.
And the next
Oh,
point
Lord.
bubble, when it says LOL cool, when should I take the thing? What does the thing refer to?
The thing refers to the drugs, ecstasy or MDMA.
Continuing on,
Okay, so book other through Garen. Want me to hit Garen? All set. When shall I take it? Where is it? When will you be there?
pausing there, what are you talking about taking in that text message?
The drugs. Like, when do I take it?
In the next message from Sean says, it's in med bag. What's the med bag?
The med bag is where Sean kept his medicine. It's a Louis Vuitton bag and occasionally kept other drugs in there.
When you say other drugs, what other drugs are you referring to?
2 ecstasy, MDMA more party drugs.
So can you continue reading the blue, please?
Yes. Did you book with Garen? Yes. 3 a.m., the white guy. Do you want to take now and push up to 2:45?
In that message, what is your understanding of what Sean is asking you of what you want to take now?
The drugs and to push up the time of the escort?
To push up the time for earlier?
Yeah, to push it up earlier.
Diddy was just really like pimping Cassie out.
Ms. Gavin, can we
Right?
turn to the next 2 pages, please?
Jeez.
So continuing on.
Push up to 2:45 or I can.
My heart.
No, that's 45 minutes. You
She's
said
so
you'll be here in
strong.
20. I haven't even seen you. Damn.
When you say no, that's in 45 minutes. You say you'll be here in 20. I haven't even seen you. Damn. Why did you say that?
Because I wanted to see Sean before we started doing anything.
Did you want to see Sean before you started taking drugs?
Eva.
Yeah, I wanted to just see him before all of this.
So continuing to read.
LOL, I'm ready. Did you get orange pill? No, you told me not to take. Can you take now? It's the orange in the 5 HTP bottle. Okay. I took mine. Okay, getting now.
Wow.
I'm flying. Meet me. Orange or yellow?
Pausing you there, when Sean says, I'm flying, meet me, what is your understanding of what I'm flying means?
He's high.
And when you say orange or yellow, what does Sean respond?
Orange.
At the bottom of the message, what does Sean say?
Have a drink, too.
Ms. Gavin, we can take that down. Ms. Ventura, if you didn't take drugs before reaching the location of the Freakoff, at what point would you take drugs when you reach the location?
Immediately after, or when I actually got with Sean.
And relative to when an escort would arrive, when did you typically take drugs?
Before.
In addition to taking drugs at the beginning of the Freakoff, how often did you take drugs during the Freakoff?
All the time.
How did you get more drugs?
If we ran out, we would call people, friends or drug dealers or whoever at the time.
Backing up a little, when you said
They
you
did a lot of rugs, right? We just heard from Brianna and Jane Doe about, sex for 24 hours and Molly for 10 days.
took drugs
straight.
all the time throughout the Freakoff,
Every hour.
approximately how frequently would that be?
Don't
During
forget
the
the
Freakoff or just-
SCX for
sorry.
24 hours straight.
No problem. How long would the high
That's
lap
wild.
typically last if you took, for example, ecstasy?
Like 3 to 4 hours, and then would take more because the sessions were quite long.
So if you took ecstasy, would you typically need to take more ecstasy every few hours when the high would run out?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is AI, but this is verbatim the transcript.
And when that would happen, how would you get more ecstasy to take?
We either had it or would have it brought to the room.
And who had the ecstasy in the room?
Sean.
And if more drugs needed to be brought to the room, how would you get more drugs?
Either he would contact or I would make contact with his contact to bring more.
Who would you contact for additional drugs, if anyone?
Drug dealers, friends, assistants, whoever had at that point.
And when you say assistants, whose assistants would be contacted?
Sean's.
When you decided to take more drugs during the Freakoff, when the high was wearing off, why did you take more drugs?
For me to just remain high and not be present with the experience.
Why did you not want to be present with the experience?
Because it was something I hated doing.
Circling back on bringing additional drugs, if you contacted the individuals you discussed, were you present when anyone
Hello,
dropped off
Director
additional
Stella.
drugs?
Sometimes, but it was a really brief thing.
Who brought additional drugs to Freakoffs?
Again, friends, whoever had the hookup of the drug of the moment. So that could be a drug dealer, could be a friend, could be an assistant, anyone is Sean's, because I didn't have any of those things.
You testified earlier that ecstasy is typically a pressed pill. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
How does ecstasy make you feel?
it's a euphoric feeling. I don't really know what's in it, the pressed pill. You're more sensitive, you're more aroused, you even just feel more sexual, I would say.
Cassie's
You also
testimony.
mentioned MDMA. What does MDMA look like?
It's like a crystallized drug, and you can crush it up and turn it into powder and ingest it.
How would you take MDMA?
Put it in a drink, usually.
How does MDMA make you feel?
Very similar to ecstasy, just kind of euphoric. Everything feels light and nice, and yeah,
When, if ever, did taking drugs make you feel sick?
often. I used to get sick a lot. My stomach used to not agree well with ecstasy especially, but MDMA as well.
How often would you get sick from taking MDMA or ecstasy?
Almost every time. Like before the actual high hit, I would feel like vomiting. It was usually like a normal thing.
Would you vomit or would you just feel nauseous?
Wow.
I would actually vomit, yeah.
Did Sean know about the effects that ecstasy and MDMA had on you?
Yeah.
How?
Because he would see me in the bathroom, or I would tell him, so he would just know.
What, if anything, would Sean say when you got sick from MDMA or ecstasy?
He didn't say much, but if we were in the Freakoff, he would be encouraging me to get up and continue on with it in that condition.
When you say continue on with it, what are you referring to?
Continue the Freakoff. Continue the intercourse even though I felt like vomiting, or that I was.
Did you want to
She would do like 8-hour freak-offs, Cassie, too.
continue intercourse when you felt like vomiting?
No.
Besides ecstasy and MDMA, what, if any, other drugs were used at Freakoffs?
I said cocaine, GHB, ketamine, marijuana, mushrooms.
How does ketamine make you feel?
Ketamine for me is dissociative. Like you can be there, but not mentally. Be there.
They really used Special K a lot. We just heard from Jane Doe and Brianna how much they would have.
And how does GHB make you feel?
I would say that GHB makes you feel kind of drunk, a little bit tipsy.
How about cocaine? How does cocaine make you feel?
Oh, geez, not
Cocaine
I
makes
mean,
my heart
so-
race. I was never a huge fan.
You also mentioned mushrooms. How do mushrooms make you feel?
They're psychedelics, so you can see things. I feel like the walls come alive.
What does that mean, the walls come alive?
Everything has life to it when you're taking those kind of drugs, like psychedelics.
Have you ever used the phrase the turn up?
Yes,
What have you used that to refer to?
to drugs, to party.
And of the drugs we've discussed, what are drugs that you would take to party?
Ecstasy and MDMA would be the main ones.
And how, if at all, did taking the drugs we just discussed assist in sexual arousal?
They always did. Would it be okay to take a quick break?
Your Honor, is that okay?
Of course. It's 4 o'clock. Let's come back at 4:10.
Let's not forget Cassie was literally about to give birth on the stand, too.
Thank you.
Shout out
All
to her,
rise
man.
for the jury.
Shout out to her.
Ms. Ventura, before we broke, we were talking about using drugs at freak-offs. Do you remember that
I
testimony?
hope she's genuinely
Yes.
happy.
And you testified about
healing.
sometimes contacting people if you ran out of drugs at freak-offs. Do you remember that?
Yes.
When you reached out to a contact for more drugs, how did you know who to reach out to?
Sean would tell me who to reach out to exactly.
Okay. Earlier, you described the term session, referring to all of the sex acts with the escort. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Did the sessions follow a similar pattern at most freak-offs?
Yes.
And her husband.
And
I
how
love
did
her
you
husband.
know what the pattern was?
It was established pretty early on in doing the freak-offs that Sean enjoyed a lot of conversation or describing, usually started with oil
I
and
know.
touching and
Her
went to oral
husband's
sex,
such a good man.
and then eventually turned into intercourse. It was like a gradual process.
And is that the same pattern that was typically followed in the session?
Yeah,
Who decided what that pattern was?
Sean did. I often would try to speed it up if anyone wasn't really paying attention.
Approximately how many sessions would you have with one escort during a freak-off?
I would say at least 2 to 3. But a freak-off could be 3 to 4 different men.
And how is it determined how many sessions would be had with any one escort?
Wow.
It was based off the high and just how things were moving.
Did you ever want to have additional sessions with an escort?
No.
Who, if anyone, would tell you to have additional sessions with an escort?
Objection form.
I can rephrase, Your Honor.
You may.
I'm sorry.
You may.
Thank you, Judge. Miss Ventura, you just testified you did not want to have additional sessions with an escort.
I hated it.
Did you have any additional sessions with escorts during freakoffs?
Sometimes, yes.
Why?
Because Sean would want to do more, go longer, finish up strong, as he would say.
Ew.
You also testified that there were sometimes 3 to 4 escorts at a freakoff. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Were there any occasions where there was more than one escort present for one session?
Yes.
Approximately how many times was that?
That, I don't know the exact number, but definitely more than once.
Did you want more than one escort to be present at a session?
No, it was already enough managing one additional person.
And when more than one escort was present, how did the sex acts proceed?
It was very like porn.
What do you mean by that?
It was just, I was an object, being heavily objectified by men in that scenario.
You talked about managing an additional escort. What did you mean by managing?
Just having to be the only female in the room, like with the sexual stuff. It just, having to entertain one more person, make sure one more person is satisfied. Yeah.
During these sessions, where was Sean physically relative to you and the escort?
If he wasn't...
This is Cassie Ventura's testimony AI version, but it's the transcript verbatim from
he would
the
be like
court.
Just outside the room, kind of covered up, not seen. You could just hear his voice, or in the corner. If he was involved though, he would be right next to us.
And when you say involved, are you referencing he would be a part of this sex as you discussed earlier?
Yeah, with me.
If Sean was in the corner of the room, what was he generally doing there?
He was generally masturbating and just talking.
What kinds of things did he say?
Yuck.
He would just ask me like how it felt, like what it looked like, how it made me feel.
Oh my God.
This is so awkward.
You also mentioned sometimes Sean would be outside the room.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yeah.
How frequently did that happen?
I mean, it varied. No real number.
When Sean was outside the room during a freak-off, what, if any, conversations did you have with Sean before it started about where he would be?
We didn't really. I guess on occasions there was like a couple of occasions where he said he wanted to watch from a different room, or he would set up like my phone and his phone on a FaceTime so that he could watch while he wasn't like present in the actual room.
Diddy's sick. A nasty foo, because like, is that really hot watching Cassie like 4 different men in a night, and then she's getting like UTIs? I'm just like, wow.
So I was still expected to do the same thing
horrified.
even though he wasn't there.
So on the occasion when Sean was out of the room, what did you and the escort typically do?
If Sean could see me on the FaceTime, I was still doing the same thing. So talking and having this sexual encounter with the escort. But if he was just out of the room and not paying attention, I would stop.
How would you know if Sean was out of the room and not paying attention?
I would just know that you can't hear him, or he didn't call, he's not paying attention.
During freak-offs, what difficulty, if any, did escorts have in getting or maintaining erections?
It was actually pretty frequent with people that we didn't know well. They would express it like it's...
Hi, love.
Every time Sean would talk, it would throw them off. Or if he moved a candle, or, just was distracting, I guess.
And what did Sean do when escorts were having trouble with erections?
He would give them a pep talk. At the end, they definitely didn't get paid the normal amount. I know that.
How do you know that?
Because he would tell me, and he would tell them as well. It wasn't really a secret.
When you say he, who is he?
Sean.
Were there any occasions when Sean offered the escorts drugs like Viagra?
Man.
Yeah.
And who else besides escorts did Sean offer Viagra to?
He offered it to me before.
And what did he say about you taking Viagra?
That it has the same effect on women, just sensitivity.
Did you take the Viagra that he offered you?
I did.
And how did you feel?
Sensitive and engorged.
Did you want to take the Viagra?
Ew.
No. I thought, no, I didn't.
When escorts were having trouble getting erect, what, if anything, did you observe affected their inability to get erect?
Like I said before, just a distraction as seeing Sean move around, maybe just hearing his voice. It's quite recognizable. Any distractions there, really. Some of the men would actually just say that, like having someone else in the room was just disturbing for them. It made them uncomfortable.
Were there any distractions that you observed other than Sean's voice?
Your Honor, I'm going to object at this point. Cumulative and it's straining relevance.
I'm
Day one, and no, I cannot imagine this. I cannot.
sorry, the last part of it I missed.
Relevance.
Okay, I'll sustain the objection, and you can maybe rephrase the question.
Sure. After the end of the session, what would you and Sean do next?
The end of an entire session, or
Just one session within a Freakoff.
we would hang out and take more drugs with each other.
After a session, would you ever have sex with Sean?
Yeah.
And where would you have sex with Sean after the session?
In the room outside of where the session was, separate room.
You mentioned earlier today that Freakoffs were video recorded. Do you recall that testimony?
Yep.
How were they recorded?
In the beginning, they were on video cameras, like the ones with the small tapes, then eventually phones, iPads, computers.
Whose devices were used to record Freakoffs?
His devices and my own, Sean's and my own.
Approximately when did Freakoffs start being recorded?
Pretty early on, within the first year.
Who, if anyone, proposed
The
recording
first
Freakoffs?
year.
I wouldn't say there was a proposal, just started happening.
Don't forget, they were together for 10. How many freak-offs did she go through?
How did
Holy-
it start happening?
Sean brought out a
I'm
camera
horrified.
and set it up, and that's what
Horrified.
happened.
Did you want to be recorded?
No. I remember feeling insane at first. And then he explained to me that it's for him for afterwards. So, yeah.
Did you ever watch the videos again?
Yes.
When would you watch the videos again?
I would watch them with Sean afterwards usually when we were having intercourse, but I also, if I saw them and I was on my own, I was deleting them.
You mentioned that some of these videos were recorded on some of your devices.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that?
Yep.
Why were your devices used?
Because they were there. No real reason.
Did you want these videos to be on your devices?
No.
If you saw videos on your devices, what did you do?
Delete them.
Who set up the recording equipment during Freakoffs?
Sean, if he wanted me to move it, I would move it.
How would you know that he wanted you to move it?
He would tell me.
Whose idea was it to use your devices?
It was Sean's idea.
Were you always successful? Why did you delete the videos that you found on your devices?
Humiliating. Disgusting. I never wanted anyone ever see me like that.
Blackmail?
It was just not okay for me. And I felt like it was just tossed around. Like the idea of it was tossed around like it was nothing. Like, yeah.
The idea of what was tossed around like
Whoa,
nothing?
chill out.
Objectifying me and putting me in these really compromising, gross positions with strangers that I just, yeah.
You also testified that Sean's devices were sometimes used to record Freakoffs. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And what, if anything, did you ask Sean to do with the videos?
I would frequently ask him to delete videos because he had his assistants and staff members would have access to his computers and phones.
To your knowledge, did Sean delete the videos that were on his devices?
I don't know.
Can you imagine how many people saw these freak-offs that work for him, all the assistants, all the security guards? And where is all of this footage?
There are times
Crazy.
when you saw videos even after
is
Sean said he deleted them.
Yes, and I would delete them.
How often did that happen?
On occasion. It wasn't all the time, but enough.
Miss Ventura, when, if ever, did you leave a Freakoff
Yes,
before it was over?
Goddess.
When I was literally just trying to go home.
What do you mean by that?
There was an instance in Los Angeles where it got violent, and I chose to leave.
Where were you in Los Angeles?
I was at the Century City, or sorry, Intercontinental Century City.
And what happened when you chose to leave?
When I chose to leave, I grabbed what I could, and I got out. And Sean followed me to the hallway before the elevators and grabbed me up, threw me on the ground, kicked me, tried to drag me back to the room.
Already
He
out?
took my stuff. Yeah.
Miss Ventura, I'm going to start at the beginning of that incident.
Okay.
Strike that. Ms. Gavin, can you please pull up for identification for the court and the parties government exhibit B625? Can you please also put up page 2 side by side? Ms. Ventura, do you recognize the document at B625?
Yes.
What do you recognize it to be?
A text message between me and Sean?
Is it a true and accurate
No.
text message between you and
Salon
Sean?
crime.
Yes.
The government offers government exhibit B625.
Can I have one moment, please?
You may.
Salon crime did the AI. But this is the actual transcript from the court.
No objection.
B625 will be admitted.
Ms. Ventura, focusing you on the top of page 1. Ms. Gavin, could you blow up that top section? Who are the participants in this chat?
That's me and Sean.
Ms. Gavin, can you take that down? Can you blow up the bubble on page 2, please? What's the date of this message?
March 5th, 2016.
And what event, if anything, did you have at or around March of 2016?
I had my first big movie premiere.
And in relation to March 5th, when was that premiere?
That premiere was on the following Monday or Tuesday, so this was on a Friday, I believe.
And sorry, Ms. Gavin, can you take that down and put pages 2 and 3 side by side? Ms. Ventura, directing your attention to the first message on page 2. Who is that message from?
From me.
I'm sorry.
Oh, 2?
On the page to the left, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that's from Sean.
Okay, and what does that message say?
Thanks. So what you gonna do so I can plan the rest of my night?
And when Sean asked you,
Yuck.
so what you gonna do so I can plan the rest of my night, what was your understanding of what Sean was asking you?
I mean, my understanding after the time passed was that he wanted to have a freak off or do something along those lines.
Turning to the next page, and Ms. Gavin, can you blow up the green message at the top, please? How do you respond, Ms. Ventura?
I say,
Someone asked Jenny from the block if she knows anything about the Freakoffs.
baby, I want to SO so bad, but I don't want to myself up. What am I to do?
What does FO stand for?
Freak off.
When you say baby, I want to FO so bad, but I don't want to myself up. What did you mean by that?
There's a lot in that little line, but I definitely didn't want to mess myself up, my body, up for my premiere by partying. But I was telling him that I wanted to have an FO with him.
And why did you tell him you wanted to have an FO even if you didn't want to mess up your body by partying?
Honestly, it was like a little bit of damage control ahead. I personally felt like if I sort of initiate or go along with creating this night, that my premiere wouldn't be ruined. I don't know why.
What were you worried would happen at your premiere if you didn't have a freak off with Sean before the premiere?
He would have just made it miserable for me. I never really had like the chance to or the opportunity to enjoy the things that I had worked really hard on. So it just felt like I was just trying to play a balancing act a bit.
I think you mentioned damage control. What did you mean by damage control?
If I pleased him with a freak off, then my premiere would run smoothly. That's how I looked at it.
And Ms. Gavin, can you pull that down? Ms. Ventura, directing your attention to the text message on the bottom in green.
Mm-hmm.
Can you blow it out, Ms. Gavin? Ms. Ventura, what does this message say?
It says, I'm going to BOA quickly to see Erin because I didn't get to see her, and we can ask Sun. I don't want you thinking I don't want to.
Yeah, where's all that?
When you say,
content?
I don't want you
Where is
thinking
it?
I don't want to, what are you referring to?
To the freak off.
And why did you say that?
Because I didn't want him thinking I didn't want to. That would be a problem.
Why would that be a problem?
Because I knew that he wanted, and, I knew the nuanced conversation. I understood it differently.
So turning to the hotel, I believe you testified earlier that this was at the Intercontinental in Century City.
Yes.
Okay. Inside the hotel room at a high level. Can you describe to the jury what happened?
Inside the hotel room, we were having a freak-off. And is it okay to say who was there?
Yes.
Jules was one of the escorts. And in the middle of it, there was a lot of drinking, there was a lot of partying. But in the middle of it, I'm not sure what happened, but I got hit by Sean and I had a black eye. And at that point, all I could think about was getting out of there safely. I had my premiere and I didn't want to mess it up, so I left.
At what point in a freak-off did Sean hit you?
It was like in between sessions, so we weren't in the room with the escort.
Was Jules still present in the overall hotel suite?
Yes, he was.
When Sean hit you?
Yes.
After that happened, after Sean hit you, what happened next?
After he hit me, and I saw the result of it, I knew I had to get out. So when he was distracted, I don't know exactly what he was doing. He was either in the shower or on the phone. I just grabbed my stuff and ran out as fast as I could.
And where were you headed when you ran out of the room?
I was headed home to my apartment.
What happened next?
I made it to the elevators. I got my sneakers on. And then the next thing I knew, I was just thrown to the ground. Yeah, it was really fast, thrown to the ground.
You said you got your sneakers on when you got to the elevator. Where were your sneakers before?
My sneakers, I think, were in my bag. I just ran out without any shoes.
Why did you run out without any shoes?
Faster.
You said you were thrown down in the elevator lobby. Who threw you down?
Sean. He grabbed me by the back of my neck and my hoodie and just threw me to the ground.
And in the interaction in the elevator lobby, what kind of things was Sean saying to you?
It's a little fuzzy to remember.
Well, I don't want you to speculate, so let's pull up some exhibits. Ms. Gavin, can you please pull up Government Exhibit 10C-104 in evidence? If you could just pause it at the first second. Ms. Ventura, do you recognize this hallway?
Yes, that's the Century City Intercontinental hallway.
Okay, Ms. Gavin, can you please play until 14 seconds? Ms. Ventura, in which direction are you walking in this video?
I'm walking toward the elevator.
We've played
Sorry, I
that video
skipped
a
a step.
lot here on my channel.
Who is in this video?
That's me.
Okay, Ms. Gavin, can you play until 33 seconds? Pausing there. Who's depicted on the screen at 33 seconds?
That's Sean.
And in which direction is Sean heading?
Same as me, toward the elevator.
What is Sean wearing in this video?
Towel and socks.
Ms. Gavin, can you please take this exhibit down and pull up 10C-103? Can you please play
We've
until
seen that
29
video.
seconds, please? Actually,
What a
pausing there
fool.
first. Ms. Ventura, do you recognize what's depicted here in 10C-103?
Yes, that's the elevator area.
Is that at the Intercontinental?
That is at the Intercontinental, yeah.
Ms. Gavin, can you play until 29 seconds? Who is depicted in this frame?
It's me.
And can you play a few more seconds, Ms. Gavin? Pause there. Who is behind you now?
Sean.
Can you play until 56 seconds? Pausing there, Ms. Ventura, in which direction is Sean pulling you at the end of that clip?
He's pulling me toward the room.
And earlier in that clip, do we see what you described earlier of being thrown to the ground?
Yes.
How many times had Sean thrown you to the ground like that before?
Too many to count, I don't know.
And when you were thrown to the ground at the Intercontinental, what did you do?
I, at that moment, covered my face and just stayed there.
Why did you cover your face?
Because I didn't want him to do any more damage than he had already done.
Why did you just
Wow.
stay on the ground?
Because it felt like the safest place to be.
He was always
Ms.
beating
Gavin,
her,
can you take
remember?
this down, please, and pull up 10C-105?
Allegedly.
If you can play from 23 seconds to 30 seconds. Just pausing, I'm sorry, before we start. Ms. Ventura, do you recognize what's depicted on the screen in 10C-105?
Yes, that's the opposite side of the hallway at the Intercontinental.
Okay, Ms. Gavin, can we play to 30 seconds, please? And was Sean visible in that clip?
Yes.
Where was he?
He was dragging me around the corner.
Ms. Gavin, if you can take that down and pull up 10C-103 again, please, and where we are at is 56 seconds. Ms. Ventura, taking it back to your testimony about staying on the ground, were there occasions when you tried to fight back when Sean hit you?
No.
Ms. Gavin, can we please play from 143 to 146? Okay, sorry, just one moment. I gave you the wrong timestamp. Can you play from 56 seconds to 132? Starting from where you're at the corner, pausing you there. Miss Ventura, what are you doing in the corner?
I picked up the hotel phone that was on the floor.
Okay, and where's Sean?
He's standing, facing me.
And what does he have in his hands?
My purse and my overnight bag.
Okay, if we can take, Ms. Gavin, if we can take that down, pull up 10C104. If you can play from 140 to 150, which direction is Sean walking?
He's walking back.
I'm
toward
literally surprised no one was unalive during all of this, all these years of rugs, beating.
the room we're staying in.
What does he
You know
have
what
in
I
his
mean?
hands?
All
So
of my
many
bags.
rugs.
And if you can play to
All that
208,
special K.
which direction is Sean walking?
Back toward the elevator bank.
And
I'm
where are you
glad,
at this
but,
point?
like, wow.
I think I'm off.
What does Sean have in his hands?
I don't see anything in his hands.
Your bags are no longer in his hands, is that right?
No, it looks like he dropped them off.
Your Honor, it's 5 o'clock. Should we?
Are you at a good stopping place?
I'm at a good stopping place.
All right. Thank you, members of the jury. I'll give you the same instructions that I gave you yesterday. Do not talk to each other about the case. Do not look up anything about this case. One just specific point about that. If you have notifications on any of your devices, please turn those off, especially if they are from any news organization of any kind. Do not talk to anybody about the case. And no one.
So that was the second or third part of the Cassie AI. So in the recaps that I do DIDDY recaps every day or every other day, kind of like tonight. And we play those AI clips towards the end of it. I'm going to do one night where we do them all together. So make sure you subscribe, turn on your notifications. We cover all things true crime. I see a lot of new subs, a lot of new chatters. Hello, welcome. I am Melly. This is my channel, Mellyverse. We cover all things true crime, court documents, phone calls, etc. We are covering Diddy. We are covering Karen Reed. We are also deep diving. We deep dove the case of the Decker family, the Decker girls yesterday. So if you're into true crime, make sure you come back and subscribe. We have a really good time here. So I appreciate you guys for being here. Yeah. Plenty of people have been on live. I meant like, in their circle because of everybody was on rugs and Special K and so much E. Ease does a lot of damage to your brain. It makes holes in your brain. If you guys didn't know that, over a period of time. So, shout out to Cassie. I love her. I've always liked her and her music. And she was basically giving birth on the stand. So, kudos to her. And kudos to you guys for hanging out for so long. Thank you for being here. Make sure you, like I said, subscribe, hit the like button. We do lives. You said no one. Well, that's true. We honestly don't know if anyone on a live, but I meant like any of the famous people, But that's true. Yeah, we never know what happened. And where is all that content and what's going to happen to it? Yeah, she had her baby. I think her baby's like a week or two old now. So we'll continue to cover Diddy trial. Thank you for being here. I go live pretty much every day, so I'm sure I'll see you guys on the next one. I hope you guys have a good night, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.